As the working week begins, it is time to reflect on what made the racing and sporting landscape over the weekend. Reflecting on the highs and lows of this racing and sporting nation.
Master saying no, mate, but I'm sure he's going to bow an underarm delivery. This is possibly a little bit disappointing.
Can the Swans do it? Shaun! Who would have thought the sequel would be just as good as the original? But a champion becomes a legend. McGruddy never has won it.
We go around the nation.
Here's Aloisi for a place in the World Cup. For us. He scored! Australia have done it!
This one, candidly, might go down as one of the great final round collapses in major tournament history.
All right, around the nation to kick off the Sports Daily this morning. Richard Haynes, Tom Rehn and Tony Jones to join us. Nick Markham not too far away, but just before we get to Nick Diggers, the WA Open, of course, wrapped up there yesterday on a day that not exactly perfect for golf.
No.
Windy, wet, but Oliver Becker, South African, playing on an invite.
Yep.
Talking about relocating his family to Perth, actually. So he's had a little bit of success there. 7 under par he finished. Had a birdie putt to seal it and blew that past.
Yeah, he did.
On his final hole, and then made the comebacker for par to clinch the championship.
Nearly made birdie on 17, which was the par 3, the 71st hole. So, but 7 under, is that what you said?
Yeah.
7 under was the score, yeah. So I think Mark Leishman finished at 5 under. But that course, it's not a long course, Mount Lawley, but it was hard and fast. And, if you've got a WA Open and 7 under's your winning score and Mark Leishman's among the field, that course is playing tough. So well done to all concerned. It's great. It was got a lot of publicity, a lot of support, didn't it, the WA Open? And clearly Mark Leishman being in the field helps. But I would have thought that's a wonderful advertisement for the WA Open, which has thrown up some outstanding winners over a long period of time back in the day.
Yeah, watching a little bit of the coverage over the weekend. Gary Player won the WA Open.
Exactly. Talk about South Africans.
Yeah, goodness gracious, mate.
So we've had some wonderful players be part of that tournament, and hopefully Oliver Becker can springboard off that.
Absolutely. Formerly in the top 100 in the world as well earlier in his career, so certainly a very, very good player. Nick Markham joins us on the Sports Daily now to kick off Around the Nation. Nick, a very good morning to you.
Morning, boys.
Are you a Sweet Caroline man?
Oh,
I am, mate. I am. I was belting it out from up in the grandstand. It was a sensational day there at Randwick on Saturday, and look, it keeps going to new levels each and every year. The Everest and Kaying Rising added so much to this year's event, and look, it's we'll see what they can do next year. There's talk of opening up the Randwick infield like they do at the Kentucky Derby, so. To get even more people through the gates. But, yeah, look, they've done a great job in attracting a younger audience to racing, which, we all love our racing. We know that, there's so many options today for anyone who's interested in any sort of wagering or entertainment. And, look, it's great to get young people into it.
What were the ticket prices for the Everest on the weekend, Nick?
Oh, mate, look, I don't know.
Right.
I'm not. I've got no idea. I had a complimentary ticket, so
You're not buying, are you? You've thrown him under the bus there, tickets.
Through my employer, I don't know. But yeah, I'm sorry, mate.
No, that's okay. The only reason I ask is and Peter Volandis it's like a badge of honour for him. It's a youthful crowd, isn't it? It's a young crowd.
Very
they all
much so.
Get there and they have a wonderful day out.
Yeah, very much so, and they made a thing of that in the lead up that it is the youngest race crowd that you get anywhere in the country now, like very much sub 30, and is the bulk of that crowd that's down there packing out the lawned areas. No, it's very much a young crowd in the stands as well. You see it.
Yeah.
Is that because it's like a party, Nick? Do you think? Because you obviously
very much so. Very much so. And look, I know that the purists sort of have their critics or are critical of, we're here to see the horses. And look, if you love your horses, I can understand that. But look, you've got to get a new generation to the races. No one's going to actually fall in love with the game from a young perspective if they don't get there and enjoy it to begin with. And look, it's some people are going to go purely for the party element because it's a huge social event with 50,000 people, largely of their same age group, in the one area. So look, I don't think there's any problem with it being like a big party as long as it doesn't get too messy. And look, it's a win for racing because in a time where it's hard to be relevant in such a packed sporting market, and we know that racing used to own, if you wanted to bet, you had to go to the races. People like mine and your age, Diggers, we grew up in times where, if you want to bet, you go to the races. Now, if you want to bet, you get on your mobile phone and it can be anywhere. And, racing needs to do things to stay relevant, and I think it's been a great innovation, and hopefully it can keep going.
Most importantly, did you make a profit?
I did. I had a rare winning day. So, no, it was great for me. No, it was normally just happy to go there, have a few drinks, have a bit of fun. But, got a few winners across the day. Stretton Angel was good for me at Caulfield.
Okay.
I ended up with some money in my pocket. So, no, it was a good day all round.
Clearly you forgot our phone numbers over here. Thanks for that, Nick. Now, now it might have been a good day for you at Randwick on the weekend, but it wasn't a good day for the Perth Wildcats against the Sydney Kings yesterday. The Kings were very, very good, pulled away late.
They did, and they did it without their coach, Brian Gorgeon, who got himself ejected in the third term. I thought he was a bit stiff. I thought the official was a little over the top there in ejecting Brian. We know he can get a bit animated on the sideline, but I don't think it was anything more than what we've seen in the past. And we ended up seeing the great Andrew Bogut take charge for the end of that game. So, look, we've done some stories with Andrew over the time, and he's genuinely looking at an NBA career at some point as either an assistant or a head coaching role. So it was interesting to see him take charge in this later period, and they were quite impressive, weren't they? Kendrick Davis, probably Matthew Dellavedova's best game of the six he's played for the Kings now, and Xavier Cooks is starting to show what we know he can show. So, look, they're 3-3 now, the Kings. They certainly haven't started the season with any sort of consistency, but there's a lot of talent there. Yeah,
so where do you see them at the moment in the whole picture of things? United and the 36ers look to be sort of head and shoulders above the rest at this stage, but we know the sort of talent the Kings have on the list.
No, I agree with that. And, Kings and the 36ers, but we did see the Kings go over there and do a pretty good job on United a couple of weeks, or maybe last week. So, I certainly think there's enough talent in this squad to really, really be right up there with the very best teams. But having said that, they were well beaten by Melbourne United when they played them. They got a win over the 36ers, just very up and down. If Brian Gorgeon can get some consistency out of them, there's certainly a lot of scoring firepower there, and they can go far, I think.
Is Sam Constas going to miss out in the West Test, do you think, Nick, with what we've seen from Marnus?
Yeah, I think so. We saw him bat a bit better in the second innings there of the Shield game against Victoria down in Melbourne. But look, I think Marnus has batted his way back, and that's what you want to see from a player who gets dropped to go back to domestic level, make a mountain of runs, and he has just forced his way back into this team in my view, and unfortunately Sam Constas hasn't done enough. And look, hopefully he can make some, he's still got plenty of chances to make runs during the domestic season, and who knows what happens in an attritional sort of 5-test series. His opportunity could still come again this summer, but I think it absolutely has to be Marnus. He's had success against England in Ashes series here and abroad. So, look, I think he's done enough, and he deserves a recall. Yep, absolutely. And what's going on in the Pacific Championship League? Oh, look, there's a lot of interest in these games, given a lot of the Pacific talent who've often played for the Kangaroos before, or who play State of Origin are getting back and playing for their cultures. We saw Payne Haas make his debut for Samoa yesterday in a team that included Jerome Luai, Brian Totler, some of the biggest names in the NRL, taking on a New Zealand side that also was stacked with talent, Kieran Four and Dylan Brown and the likes. It was an outstanding contest over there in Auckland, went right down to the wire. A brilliant try from Dylan Brown, who's on his way to the Knights next season for a $14 million deal. So Knights fans would have been happy to see what they saw from him. He set up a couple of tries and then took a high kick to score what turned out to be the match winner. So, look, it was a high-quality contest between those two sides, and I think it's next week against Samoa and Tonga up at Suncorp Stadium, and that will be massive up there. The passionate fans of both sides will get out and pack that stadium, I reckon. It'll be a huge clash.
Nick, great to have a chat to you this morning. Spend your winnings wisely.
Will do, boys.
See you, mate.
There's Nick Markham from Channel 7 in Sydney. Speaking about the Ashes there, of course, we read over the weekend Cameron Green.
Yeah, look good. Not major. Side strain. Don't like it. It's not...
Should be their test one?
Oh, I think he'll be their test one. They've been pretty upfront saying, look, it's not a major issue, but we are talking about Cam Green, who's required to bowl some overs, you would think, to be the best version of himself and for Australian cricket.
It's not bowling test one, surely.
Well, he's still got a month? He'd need to rehab seamlessly, put it that way.
Yeah.
It's
Because if he was to bowl, you could probably make a case that maybe, unfortunately, Webster misses out and Weatherald and Marnus both come in.
Yeah.
There's a case.
Absolutely. And look, Jake Weatherald's knocking on the door, but I think Bo Webster needs to be persisted with. And I think they've taken a very cautious approach with Bo, and hopefully he can come back in now and play some good cricket in the lead-up to that first test and prove that he's got a bit to offer, because I think he's a very unique and talented cricketer, Bo Webster, who serves Australian cricket particularly well.
Absolutely. All right, we'll stick with the theme at Randwick, the Everest. Richard Haynes joins us. Richard, very good morning to you.
Good morning, gents. Good morning, listeners. Yeah, what a weekend at Randwick was. I think the dust is settling now on an amazing race day. Huge crowd at Randwick to watch Carging Rising go about his business. And any doubters, any thoughts that he wasn't the best sprinter on the planet, well and truly put to bed on the weekend.
Did you have the view, Rich, that Zach looked to be in control of that race a long way out?
Oh, absolutely. I think after a couple of 100 metres, Zach would have been thinking, hang on, this could not be working out any better. And the reason it was working out well is there's a few factors. I mean, he drew just to have him in that nice spot in the run, but it was a funny run race. Marzu and Overpass, I mean, they were always going to be the leaders in the race. They were the likely two up on speed, but they just didn't sort of roll maybe quick enough. I thought that Carging Rising. Well, before the race, I thought, I was saying, like, Carging Rising won't feel pressure. Will never have felt pressure like he feels in this race. And that was probably reliant on Overpass and Marzu rolling along a bit quicker and maybe getting him off the bit and getting these others chasing. That didn't happen. He was just comfortable in behind. And then when it got to the business at the 300 metres, Zach was cruising. He sort of waved the whip at him a couple of times. He might have given one little reminder there, but it was a pretty soft win by Carging Rising in the end. He was fantastic. Probably going back to before the race, I went down to the race day stalls at around about 3:30. It was actually probably going to catch up and say hello to Jazz with Fangirl more than anything else, but Fangirl was kept out the back. It's like a stall area away from the main stalls where people can't get to, and that's where Fangirl was, and that's where Carging Rising was as well. A couple of other horses just kept away from the crowds because it got a bit too buzzy. The horse did come in for a little bit of a walk around and then back out at a point. But it was interesting. It got to about a quarter, sort of 5 to 4, and one of the vets said, "Oh, look, I think they're probably going to bring him out a little sort of towards the end, so he doesn't have to sort of cop all the crowds." And anyway, no quicker he said that than Carging Rising walks out, first horse out, and in he marches into the pre-parade and thought, hang on. Like, it was almost a show of, right, we're here, I'm the man, and we're not going to be last in. We're ready to rock and roll. We're saddled up. And he was just the man. He walked into the pre-parade, lots of people around the pre-parade. The pre-parade, before the theatre of the horse, is right out near the wing stand, and it was feral out there. It was wild. There were blokes jumping fences, trying to... and those horses had to cop it. They're only in there for a couple of minutes, of course, before the theatre of the horse, but he handled it beautifully, carrying Rising. He handled the theatre of the horse really well. Got on his toes, but he wasn't silly on his toes. He was fine. And, yeah, he went out, and the race was just run beautifully for him. There was no real pressure. He lobbed into third. He cruised up, and he put him away. That was all there was to it. He looked a different horse to when he went to Randwick the other day. He was trimmed up, and he was right on the job. So credit to David and Zach and the Hong Kong Jockey Club. It's a fair risk to bring the horse here, and a lot of naysayers and knockers. And I was certainly someone who thought, just you come to a different part of the world. Is he really that good? And yes, he is that good. He was outstanding. The Tab Everest, an international race this year. I know it's cliche when they say it's good for racing, but I think this probably is a good result for racing for sure.
What about his impact on that crowd there, Richard? Because we know having him in that race, for us people that follow racing day to day, it was outstanding, and we got all the publicity. Do you think he had any impact on getting north of 50,000 to the races?
Yeah, I don't think he hurt. I think even if you're a casual race goer and like a bet on the weekend, you watch a lot of Hong Kong racing, or you watch some Hong Kong racing. Plenty of people knew about this horse and the promotion around him. The crowd hit 50,000 on the day, and I've got no doubt this horse was a big contributor to that. I mean, he's the world's best, and I think, bunches of guys and girls at the races, there might have been, a group of 10 go to the races, 3 of them are punters, they would have been telling their friends all about this horse. So, he was certainly a contributor. The theatre of the horse was packed pre-race. All those horses had to handle it, and he handled it as well as any of the others. So he was a consummate professional. Tempted was amazing in defeat. The fillies, she saved all the ground up the inside. I suppose the tempo, the way it went, showed that Jimmy Star was up there and caught a bit wide, but he fought on really well. Those leaders, Overpass and Marzu, Overpass hung on for fourth. Jolly Star might have copped a touch of interference. Angel Capital still trying to get a crack at them. Briassa, just coming back from the draw, they didn't go quickly enough, and that just was too hard for him to make up the ground. He was in the market, of course. But I think what you see is what you get. The winner, Carrying Rising, he was right on the job on the weekend. He was, David timed it to perfection, and Zach's got so much confidence in the horse. Just that beautiful trail in behind, and he was too good. And I think, gamble responsibly, of course, but he's gone up a $2.25 favourite for the 2026 version already.
As he has, and he'll probably be a little bit shorter by the end of the spring. Who knows? What about the Whirlpool players?
Yeah. I think we jumped $1.40 on the Whirlpool. I mean, those Hong Kong punters are used to $1.05, so they've had a result there as well.
What about, talking of results, how good a story was it to see Rothfire winning the Sydney Stakes?
Yeah, an outstanding story. I mean, he's a much-loved horse, isn't he, Rothfire? And an 8-year-old these days, it's just fantastic. I mean, it feels like he's been retired potentially a couple of times, but they get him back to the races, and he is just a tough horse. It was a nice little warm-up for Zach before the Everest as well, and he was able to get this horse home. No, very glad to see. Robert Heathcote, he's a great character. He's a great man, and very emotional post-race to see this horse get up and do that. It was a good Sydney Stakes. There were a good bunch of horses there, but Iona Merck was tough and brave in defeat. With Your Blessing is in great form at the moment. But all honours with the winner Rothfire. I suppose he wound back the clock that bit. He's such a tough horse. He's all racehorse, and deserved winner of one of the $2 million features on the day.
Tyler Schiller on Clear Thinking, that would have been right of the day for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. I had something on her, so a couple of bets on the day, but she was fantastic, and he had to be patient just in behind a wall of horses. I think that the Kosciuszko is one of those races where we've seen Front Page do his thing. You probably need to be a Group 3 to Group 2 horse to win it. I think she probably is, and they've just sort of had this race in mind all the way. There will be stakes races for her down the track, but well done to the Arrowfield crew. Leah and Paul Massara training, and she was great. Gallant Star was just that in second, picked up a big check, and I saw Brett Kavanagh down at the race day stalls with Chidiac running third. He was very, very happy. A good prize when he jumps in for those connections. But clear thinking, she was fantastic. Just, wonderful ride by Tyler to get home in the Cossie.
Well, what about linebacker? Now, if Carrying Rising wins an Everest, surely linebacker had to be nice and popular in the Silver Eagle, and he duly was. And on top of the ground, he showed a wonderful turn of foot. We've seen him get through the ground previously when it's been wet, but this was a display.
It's funny, it was one of those horses on the day I thought, as a 3:10 favourite, I thought, I don't know, I thought, do I really want to be with you today? And he was emphatic. I just didn't see him quite doing it like that. Zach gave him that nice run, and John O'Shea's always said he's a horse that needs that bit of galloping room. He's got a glorious action about him. But he thumped them, didn't he? Lord Penman's going very, very well. I think Mayfair's racing well, but no, that was a really strong win. Since he's been gelded, he's a horse that's thinking about one thing, and that's being a racehorse. I know we trialled alongside Carrying Rising and those horses. I just didn't quite see him winning in that fashion. So, bring on the Golden Eagle versus Autumn Glow, and gee whiz, if Angel Capital wants to go that way, look out as well what a race it's going to be. But linebacker, he put them to the sword, and that was strong. I thought he was a chance in the race. I didn't see him coming out and smashing them like that. So, John and Tom clearly have him in a good headspace at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Rich, thank you very much for your time. We'll do it all again next Monday.
No worries. And those Wolf believers.
Oh, yes.
Pay those believers. He turned up on the weekend.
All six of them.
Stuck solid. Joe Pride did tell us back in the middle of August he's got 5 more Group 1s in him, I'm sure. Or there was one of them on the weekend.
Well, to be fair, he is a good horse. It is a good horse's race, and we saw what he was able to do 12 months ago. Shades on there on Saturday. Gun ride. Terrific win. So, no, well done to Joe and the team.
Good on you guys. Chat next Monday. Thanks.
Will do. There's Richard Haynes, and a shout out to Nick Ashman as well. Race number 1, Panova. He was all over at the start of the day in really nice fashion. $9.50 fixed, and said keep an eye on Panova heading towards the Carbine Club Derby Day, race 1.
He was on the money. Our experts were pretty good, I thought, over the weekend, TC.
Yes, Ron Duffy keen on linebacker, keen on Chowolf at $10 when tipped. We had a couple of winners there for Chris Nelson at Eagle Farm.
Yes.
And then, obviously, Jules Valance was all over half yours. At
Half Jet. He'll be up and about. Hopefully we'll get him on Thursday if he's sobered up.
Doesn't matter if he hasn't. We'll still get him.
It might be even better.
Well, I'm not sure it could get much better. All right, out to the roads. We'll continue after that.
On the Sports Daily, the Shayne train's coming into the station. Here's Shane Williams with his winners for tonight's WA Greyhound racing.
We'll get to Shane Williams very, very shortly here on the Sports Daily for his look at Northam, getting underway this afternoon. And while we were just touching on Tyler Schiller there right of the day, I think Clint Johnston Porter would have taken out right of the day on us at Ascot in the Eurythmic Diggers.
It was a terrific ride, wasn't it? William Pike produced a few pearlers as he comes to do. He's won 7 races on the 2 Saturdays combined now, William. So he's going at, he's won 35% of the races at Ascot since we've returned there, the 2 10-event cards, and he hasn't had rides in every race.
When the track sort of plays that way, that suits him perfectly.
Oh, yeah,
He's the best at just stalking, and then gets a horse into a beautiful rhythm.
Black Aura, what a ride that was. What a ride that was.
A turn of foot from the horse.
Yeah, when she's right, she's a very good mare, isn't she? But, no, terrific ride. But you're right, the ride aboard Diamond Seen by CJP was brilliant. Summed it up. So credit to Clint, Mickey, the crew. If they've said, yep, okay, we've identified there's no speed here, we're going forward, we'll put this horse in the right spot. And that's exactly what they did. So well done to them. Probably
would have been close to the last on the list, I would have thought.
Yeah,
in that position.
Agree. But we've seen, haven't we, with Cosmic Crusader, Clint not frightened to give the horse a little bit of a rub. And even the horse on the weekend, he didn't spring the gates like Clint assessed it really quickly and thought, no, there's a spot there. I'll whip around, I'll get there. Magnificent Andy had the 1-1, but no, Clint sort of summed it up in a split second, so credit to him.
All right, we'll take a look at chasing this afternoon. Shayne Train, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, boys. How are we today?
Very well. How was the weekend?
Yeah, it wasn't a bad weekend, Dix, all around. I think we were winless Saturday, but we tipped a couple on Friday at nice odds, so it wasn't a bad weekend for the punters to have a bit of spending money for what was a good weekend in the horses, wasn't it? It was a great weekend.
Wonderful weekend, yeah, absolutely.
All right, where's your first special this afternoon?
Yeah, it's early on today, Dix. Race 1, number 2, Outlaw McGraw. Veteran Chaser still racing well. 1-2 back here from the inside draw in 1734, and I think the vacant box next door in 3 will help him get a little bit of room early that he needs, and I think it's a good chance to kick things off today with winner race 1, number 2.
Okay, where do we go after that?
The very next race 2, number 1, Starlight Twix. She's always had her fair share of ability. Since she's come to Bellwood Park, she's undefeated in her 2 runs here. Both their victories have been from the wide draws, but she's also won from the inside early on in her career. So looks like she's has a real love affair with the Northern Circuit here, boys. So I think she'll be hard to beat today. Race 2, number 1, Starlight Twix.
That market with Tab Touch is up at $1.90, Starlight Twix at the moment. Where's the third and final one, Shayne?
Yeah, race 9, number 8. I did have 7, but it's scratched. So I'm going to go with Cody Charles' runner here, Al Benson. He was a good winner last week from this draw in 29.65, and he won his previous start up here at Northam as well. And there's only 2 meetings left at Northam, and Cody's done a real good job up there at Northam this year. I'd say he'd be the leading trainer, but it'd be good for him to win a feature. This is the last feature for the year, so I think Al Benson will be hard to beat in that little country cup final up there today at Northam.
Okay, race 1, number 2, race 2, number 1, race 9, number 8. Are we shopping early?
Yeah, 2-1 is the best, Diggs, for me. Starlight Twix, just really like the way she's going up at Northam. Really showing a lot of confidence up there, and then should be hard to beat off the 1 box.
All right, Starlight Twix the best. Race 2, number 1, $1.90. The multiing those 3 up, $10.90. Shayne?
Yeah, that might change when... Oh, they've already got the 7 scratch, haven't they? So, yeah, that's right, yeah. I see the 7 not scratched on some other places. But, yeah, that's good, TC. That'll get us a nice little big breakfast to start off on Monday morning or Tuesday morning when we collect.
All right, 5 wheat bix. Thanks, Shayne.
See you, boys.
Shayne Williams is a little bit flatter than normal. Might have been a big weekend.
It's always.
That's all right.
It's always the case, isn't it? Mondays.
It's taking a little while to warm into it.
Yeah, exactly right.
Mondays are better than Tuesdays, I reckon.
You don't like Tuesdays?
No.
Blue Tuesday.
Well, tomorrow's okay, actually, to be fair, because it's all happening at Moonee Valley.
Yeah, it
There's
is.
something going on.
Yeah.
But normally Tuesday. So Monday you get to review. Tuesday you're sort of stuck in the middle. And Wednesday you've got midweek racing, so you're back.
Yeah. This time of the year, though, it's great because there's so much racing chatter, isn't there? Every day there's a story, and we certainly learnt on Friday that Sir Delius had come out of the Melbourne Cup and Cox Plate, so that robs Moonee Valley of a really significant headline act for that Wait for Age feature.
So it seems like Observer, we're still up in the air. We're not too sure if they're going to head to a Cox Plate or not, but at the moment it looks like Aliana, Antino, Attrition, Buckaroo, Globe, Light Infantryman, Nepotism, Treasure the Moment, Via Sistina. It's your Cox Plate.
She's 205 with Tab Touch Via Sistina.
205. I'm not diving into that.
No.
But where else would you like to go?
No.
That's probably the issue.
Just when you lose Sir Delius, I'm not saying it skinnies up, but it...
Well, the Shaun's come off Treasure at the moment as well, unfortunately.
Well, given how she's going, and that's not her fault. It's not her fault. We know she's had a setback mid-prep, but just you look at this Cox Plate and you go, and there'll be a great winner and we'll celebrate it as we should, but you go, I'll put it this way. I think it's fair to say we've seen stronger Cox Plates than the one that we're looking at now.
I think that's very fair to say. All right, we'll head to Adelaide, Channel 9. Tommy Rehn, how do you do? Good morning.
Good morning, boys. Hope you had a great weekend.
Likewise, Tommy. Great to have a chat to you. We might just touch on the footy if we can before we have a look at some of the summer sports. Calamar Chi, what's the level of disappointment over there in Adelaide that he didn't get to the Crows through the exchange period?
Yeah, I think there was definitely disappointment, but I think the fans probably feel happy or, I guess, satisfied that the Crows didn't offer more than what, was asked from Brisbane. I think a future second and third round selection. I think given the reaction from the management and probably more broadly the AFL sort of industry, I think Crows fans are reasonably satisfied that they tried to broker a fair deal. Look, that will turn to a lot of frustration if they can't get him in the pre-season draft. It was unusual. I mean, he wasn't the only player that wanted to get somewhere and didn't, but I guess where the Crows hold the cards is the fact they can still get him through the pre-season draft. So if they're able to do that, Diggers, it's messy, but they'll be happy that they're at least able to get him.
What's the fallout from the two sides there in Adelaide with the trade and free agency period? Is it overwhelming feeling that they've both got better?
Look, I think Port, it was a pretty sort of softly approach, wasn't it? They sort of reinforced the list a little bit with what they got. I mean, you guys know a bit about Will Brodie, had a great 2022, but hasn't been seen much since then. Then they went with Jacob Ware, who's, an okay player, more of a depth player. They've done a little bit around the edges to strengthen up their squad, not massive reinforcements. And the Crows, I mean, it was all about Archie, and they didn't get him. So it was a little bit underwhelming, probably, Taylor, more than anything. But look, if the Crows can get Archie through the pre-season draft virtually for nothing, I think they'll be reasonably satisfied. But as we know, you never say never. He's going to name his financial terms. He's not going to do medicals at other clubs. It should mean he gets to Adelaide, but you never know until it's, finally done and signed off.
All right, Tommy, is Adelaide ready for the Indian cricket side to hit town? I think it's Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, that game 2 of this ODI series against Australia hits the Adelaide Oval.
Yeah, look, it'll ramp up. I think it's going to be close to a sellout. So, we've got a pretty good crowd. I hope that's ready to go for it. So I think people are just about ready to switch focus into those summer sports that you touched on, Diggers. So that'll be good. Look, I think, unfortunately, we've got a stack of rain coming. We haven't had much, but we've got a stack coming tomorrow and a bit on Wednesday. Hopefully it'll clear up by Thursday, when we have that match. So we'll see how that all goes. But, I think so. I think we are sort of ready for cricket again. And given the summer that we've got coming and, the first test is only a month or so away, I think people are looking forward to it. So hopefully we'll get a decent crowd on Thursday, and fingers crossed the weather does come good for us.
The start of the Sheffield Shield season hasn't been great.
It's been very underwhelming again, hasn't it? So 2 losses to start the Shield season, back-to-back losses in the One Day Cup as well. They did get a win in their last game against Victoria. They play again this morning against Queensland, but you're right. I mean, really disappointing so far. And as you guys know, it's hard to play catch-up. So, they've been brought back to earth in a big way in the last couple of games.
All right. Now, TC and mine, our membership for the Adelaide 36ers, it's being processed at the moment, so it should be coming through shortly with Bryce Cotton doing Bryce Cotton things. 53 on 16 of 29 shooting against the Cairns Taipans to single-handedly lead Adelaide to victory. Something to be really impressed about. Well, we shouldn't be surprised, Tommy.
Yeah, and a record for the Sixers. I mean, you guys know as well as anyone, he's just a marvel. And they're 10-minute quarters, as we know. It's not like the NBA where you play 12-minute quarters. So to score 53 out of 91 points, that's a big win on the road for the Sixers. 5-1, Diggers, and Taylor, you guys know as well as anyone the star power of this guy. And he's just carrying this team at the moment. Now, I do still think they need another import, but what I'm really looking forward to as well is on Sunday they come up against Melbourne United on the road, and United, as we know, are 7-0. The Sixers 5-1. They're the 2 standout teams by a fair margin at the moment. So bring that game on. It should be a beauty. So I cannot wait for that. But so far, so good for the Sixers. They're looking really, really impressive. They can just keep banking a few away wins. You guys know how important they are. So big game coming up on Sunday.
Any cackle about that import slot?
No, it's all sort of gone a little bit quiet there, but I do still think, Taylor, they'll get one, and I think they need one. I mean, we saw when he got shut down against the Kings, they need that other shooter, another avenue there. So I think if they're going to be I already think they're contending, but I think if they're really going to be almost a team to beat, they need another import, and they need a good one.
I dare say the win of Half Yours in the Caulfield Cup would have been popular there in South Australia as well with the McAvoys and Mellom link.
Yeah, and it was nice to see Jamie back in a bit of form, wasn't it, Diggers? You know, there's been a bit of buzz about her and her struggles with the rides of lately. Hasn't ridden too many winners, but that was a peach of a ride. Just, you know, got it out. It was the best horse, but you still have to get the job done. And that was, you know, it was just a class above, I thought. And, yeah, with the McAvoys too, good South Aussie sort of connection there. It does feel as though, fellas, and look, I'm sure you've spoken about it a lot, the Everest took a lot more of the headlines, didn't it, as opposed to the Caulfield Cup. It's just got that star power at the moment, and that was a super impressive win by Keying Rising. It was an amazing performance on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Those sprinters overtaking the stayers. Unfortunately, Tommy, from a Caulfield Cup point of view, but we have spent most of the morning talking about the Everest. Thank you very, very much for your time. Hopefully we'll be able to chat about a one-day next week that actually gets through the whole 100 overs.
Can't wait, boys. Yeah, let's hope so. Fingers crossed we get the full day's play on Thursday.
Absolutely. There's Tommy Rehn from Channel 9 in Adelaide. Surely not. We can't have 2 one-days rained out.
No, the forecast of Thursday in Adelaide is fine. So, yeah, rain coming tomorrow and also Wednesday, and a fair bit, I think, Tuesday, but certainly the forecast Thursday is encouraging, so should get a full game there, which is terrific.
All right, fingers crossed. Tony Jones from Channel 9 in Melbourne, not too far away. We'll get his perspective on what's going on in the F1 because, as we spoke about a little bit earlier, Max Verstappen took the podium finish there in the US, and that lead for Oscar Piastri, which looked pretty comfortable. Is that the right word? A couple of weeks ago, he's gone 3 Grand Prix without a podium finish.
Yeah, exactly. So he needs to get back on his bike, doesn't he, to hopefully solidify the standing that he had due to his excellent work in the first half of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't forget, we are taking on Matt Young today at Pinjarra. Your best bets on 0427 789 571 for a chance to win a $100 Tab Touch voucher. But welcome in from Channel 9 in Melbourne. TJ, good morning to you.
Morning, boys. How are you?
Very well, TJ. Very well. Is the city itself wrapped up with Caulfield Cup wash-up and Cox Plate and Melbourne Cup and the like?
Yeah, very much so. It's that period where, you know, the football is done and dusted to a certain degree, although it never quite is. Cricket hasn't quite arrived yet, but it's very much about the racing. And Caulfield was terrific on Saturday. It was a predictable win in many ways for Half Yours and for the Courtland stable, McAvoy, I beg your pardon. It was a bit of redemption as well, having, you know, Tony McAvoy missing out with Fields of Omar more than 20 years ago. So, look, I was down at Altona Beach, which is one of the more popular beaches for the horses to go and just soothe their muscles and have a little bit of R&R. I was down there on Thursday, I think it was, when Calvin McAvoy took the horse there. And, yeah, I mean, everything was pointing to it being in top order and all the rest of it. So it panned out exactly the way they wanted it to. So now the big decision is, do you press on with the Melbourne Cup? And things are starting to point to that direction as well. What do you think?
Well, I think they would, TJ, if the horse pulls up all right, and probably the Melbourne Cup from an Australian perspective, you probably want him to push on because we lost Sir Delius late last week. Unfortunately, from an Australian point of view, we've seen Sir Delius here in the country and he was garnering a lot of attention.
Well, absolutely, and it was a real kick in the guts for Adrian Bott and Gay Waterhouse because for Gay, who has not won a Cox Plate before, she honestly thought that this was going to be the horse that would deliver it, particularly after its last win in the Turnbull, I think it was, the Turnbull. So, yeah, it was a help. You know, and these CT scans are done for a purpose, and I know they're not a great result sometimes for the connections, but we've not really seen it with a locally trained horse before. Normally it's the international horses that fall foul of these protocols. So, look, they can only wonder what might have been, but what we do know is that the Cox Plate will go ahead this Saturday without Sibelius, and Via Cecina, it's, again, you know, hers for the taking in many ways because everything we're hearing at the moment is it's not a jam-packed field with talent, and Via Cecina is just a magnificent story given what we saw transpire only a year ago, and to think that horse, through its jockey, bolted around the track a couple of times, basically ran the Cox Plate before it was reeled in, and then went on to win the Cox Plate. It was a magnificent effort, not just by Via Sistina. And all these stories are going to come out again this week, and rightfully so, because it was probably one of the greatest wins we've seen on an Australian track in terms of what had transpired 5 days before. But just a great training performance as well from Chris Waller, who, despite the horse having run those couple of laps without the jockey, and certainly it wasn't playing that way, and then to actually have that secret gallop again at the Valley on the Thursday just to make sure that she wasn't spooked, and then to see what she did on race day was just unbelievable, and people would love to see her win it again.
Yeah, absolutely they would. Now, TJ, we had a good chat to Tommy Rehn prior to you jumping on the line, and he said Adelaide people are now ready for the summer sports. You will see the Indian cricket side there in Melbourne over the weekend. Do you feel as if Victorian people are ready to make that transition from football now the trade period has finished over to cricket and the like?
Yeah, most definitely, and particularly here in Melbourne with our large Indian population. So you would have seen, in test matches gone by, one-day matches, be it T20, whatever it is, whenever India's playing, they get a massive crowd at the MCG, and a large portion of that crowd are Indians. And, Virat Kohli probably won't see him play here again, or won't see him play here again. So it's going to be something pretty special. So, yeah, I think... Look, I've got to say, from where I sit, cricket is not what it was. I mean, I do look at the side sometimes and I think, who the hell is that? You know what I mean? It's not like the walk-up starts that we saw in previous times, and there was always that expression about it was harder to get out of the Australian team than it was to get in. So I know times change and formats change, and it is horses for courses in many ways, but it's not something nowadays that I find myself tuning into religiously. Like yesterday, for example, I did have some downtime in the afternoon, and I watched an NHL match, ice hockey, and saw the Penguins in action, which was great. Then I could have flicked over to the cricket, but I chose to watch the MotoGP at Phillip Island. So I think there's still a little bit of sort of getting used to what we're seeing at the moment with some of these names coming into the team. So, but to answer your question, yes, there will be a big crowd there, and the Indians in particular will be relishing it.
Should we be worried about Oscar Piastri?
Yes, I'm worried about him. What is it? I mean, if you're on the world stage and you're from Melbourne, it seems everyone's after us. So poor old Ange Postecoglou copped it on the weekend, he's ours, and Oscar Piastri just couldn't get it done. I got up early to watch the sprint race on Saturday morning, and I was just gutted when he collided with his teammate, in inverted commas, Lando Norris. Zach Brown, who's the team principal at McLaren, was quick to point the blame to Nico Hülkenberg, and I'm still mystified as to how it happened and who's to blame for it. But in the eyes of the commentators and all the rest of it, it was Lando's fault. I beg your pardon, it was Oscar's fault, and I'm not ready to subscribe to that yet. All I know is that he couldn't get the job done today. His lead's been cut considerably, and Max Verstappen is looming large, even though he's got a lot to play out. I think there's 5 races to go. So Mexico this weekend, and I honestly pray that Oscar can get his act together and take out that race and just sort of give himself a little bit more breathing space.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all do. And just before we let you go, TJ, Lygon Street without Charlie Curnow, they're all okay out there?
Yeah, I think it'll be fine. I think that's the nature of the beast, isn't it? He's gone now. He's very much a Sydney Swan, and it's like, move on. There's other challenges to face now, and it wasn't Charlie Curnow who was the be-all and end-all of that football club. Sydney certainly hope it's him, but from a Collingwood point of view, of course, Mason Cox and Tom Mitchell were shown the door on the weekend. So that's probably not unexpected, but I think it would have been a tough call for Craig McRae because he had a very, very long association with Mason Cox.
TJ, great to chat on this Monday morning. We'll do it all again next week. Have a good week.
Look forward to it. See you guys.
There's TJ from Channel 9 there in Melbourne. We'll take a quick break here on the Sports Daily. Back to let you know what's coming up.
Make Tab Radio your station of choice. Each weekday morning from 5:30 with the Sports Daily.
Tyler Courtland and Digby Beacham with you. Of course, if you have missed anything from the Sports Daily this morning, you can head to tabradio.com.au or wherever you listen to your podcast, just search the tab, the Sports Daily. Even?
Correct.
And you can catch up with everything we've chatted about. About to chat to Matt Welsh and also Shaun McGruddy about the weekend's racing, and we'll have a little bit more of an in-depth chat about Ascot, Diggers, because a few horses there, high-quality horses, returned and ran really well.
Very much so. Very much so. Diamond seemed great. And great to see Rope them in.
Yeah,
great. We had a good chat to Wolfie on Friday in the Hour of Power, and he said, Mr. Gallop and the like, but he'd had 2 trials that had been excellent, and he goes there under a terrific ride as well by Shaun. Let's be honest, he summed that up really well, much like CJP did 40 minutes later, but it was a great ride aboard. Rope them in, was a little slow to step.
Didn't expect the market to do what it did.
No.
Out to about $5.50, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And once they jumped, you would have thought, he's, double that. But Shaun elected to go back in, or probably was dictated to. He couldn't get out, but he went back through them, and he savaged the line. He was really good, Rope them in.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. Now we look forward to Saturday at Ascot with the Belgravia being the highlight. We'll get to your text messages, 0427 789 571. Have your say on anything we've discussed on the Sports Daily. We'll get to those after 7 o'clock.
WA Racing Update is brought to you by Tab Touch. Better your bet with Tab Touch.
All right, the 2 local meetings to take a look at. First of all, we're getting underway at Pinjarra. CT, the betting code at 12.36. 9 races on the program. You are taking on Matt Young with his best bet today. Preview coming up at 8.45. Of course, from 9 o'clock as well, off and pacing. Northam, CD, the betting code. 10 races on the program. 12.48, the first of those. Shayne Williams, if you missed him a little bit earlier on. Race 1, number 2. Race 2, number 1. So race 2, number 1, the absolute best of the afternoon. And then also his other special, race 9, number 8.
What happened on this day in years gone by?
Okay. A couple of musicians born on this day. TC 1950, Tom Petty, one of the great voices.
Yeah.
And your man, Snoop Dogg, born on this day, 1971.
Nick Markham's man.
Oh, Nick Markham is a big dog man. He loves
massive.
him.
No, unfortunately, Teddy Swims took him down, I reckon.
Did Teddy Swims... Oh, yeah, I've asked this question about
NRL
Teddy
v
Swims.
AFL.
Okay, so you're a Teddy man, not a Snoop man.
Yeah.
Okay. Controversial. All right, on this day, Herbert Hoover, President of the United States from 1929 to 1933, passed away.
Vacuum, they called him.
Yes, at the age of 90 on this day in 1964. 1968, former First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy married Greek shipping magnate Aristotle Onassis. Now, on this day, 1977, a plane carrying the southern rock band Lynyrd Skynyrd, known for Sweet Home Alabama and Free Bird, crashed in Mississippi, killing singer Ronnie Van Zant and guitarist Steve Gaines. And a featured event on this day, 52 years ago, the Sydney Opera House, or the Opera House in Sydney, opened. Right. All the way back. It was opened by Queen Elizabeth II on this day, 1973. So there you go. Sorry?
Have you been there?
No, been in the vicinity of it, but I've actually never been in it, no.
Past it, seen it?
No, we're down on the rocks. It's gorgeous down there, what is it, Circular Quay? You go across to Manly and all the rest of it on the ferries. It's a beautiful part of the city, but no, I haven't been in it. Have you? Well, you haven't been to Sydney, have you?
I've not been in New South Wales.
Okay.
Why?
Maybe you should go with Shayne Williams next time he's there.
No, I wouldn't survive. Not with the way he visits New South Wales.
No. Probably right.
Maybe go for an Everest, but that's the only thing that would get me there.
Only thing that would get you there?
I'd rather go to the football or Melbourne Cup Carnival.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Back with Matt Welsh on the other side of this.
Tab Radio, your station of choice. Each weekday morning from 5:30 with the Sports Daily.
Welcome back to the Sports Daily. Just tick past 7 o'clock here on this Monday morning. Taylor Courtland and Digby Beacham with you. We'll get to some of these text messages. Mark from Vic Park, a good contributor to the show. Kaying Rising, he's clearly the best sprinter in the world. Again, I ask, can anyone name another good horse from the sire Sham Express?
Oh,
that's one for you, Dickus.
That is one for me. That's a very, very good question. Off the top of my head, no, but I'll have a look into it. All I do know is the horse now, Sham Express, is proving very, very popular, which is not entirely unsurprising given the deeds of what Kaying Rising has been able to achieve.
He also goes on to say that the Everest, no doubt, is the biggest and most relevant race in Australia now. And the effect of Kaying rising in that race, close to $16.5 million gambled on the race. Australian dollars, that is. They beat the old record of $13.1 million in 2023. Now, I got those stats off the ATC website, and I presume that 23 event was the Cox Plate when Romantic Warrior was here.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Now, just answering Mark's question, Coventina Bay, a dual Group 1 winner over there in New Zealand. Lim Sautoro, who won a Singapore Derby at Group 1 level last year, and along with the Raffles Cup. Grinzinger Bell, a Let's Elope Stakes winner, is a daughter of Sham Express. So he's not legless. He's had many a black type winner, but clearly Kaying Rising is the headline act.
The most relevant race in Australia?
It's a really good question. I think there's a lot of layers to that, TC. Describe relevance. So what are we pinning relevance on?
I think that would be up to yourself to...
Yeah, so I think depending on how you view it, is it more relevant than a Golden Slipper with our breeding stock here? I'd argue no. Others will have a differing view. Melbourne Cup relevance because of the eyeballs internationally for it. I would think if you're having a discussion on relevant races, the Everest is there. Clearly the Melbourne Cup is there because it's our truly national race. It's etched in Australian, psyche. The Golden Slipper for what it does to breeding in this country, and we know the breeding industry is one of the biggest industries, the studs and all the rest of it, and the money that's pumped in there. They would be the three that spring to mind. Caulfield Guineas, maybe not so much now as it once was.
We spoke about the Serdelius news on Friday, and we've touched on it a little bit throughout the show. We'll touch on it very shortly with Matt Welsh as well. But from a turnover perspective, that is going to have a major effect on the race, is it not? Oh, not this, like going forward. So I'm saying, it's very difficult to have the confidence to bet into the Melbourne Cup 2 months out when we know what's upcoming. These horses need to be scanned. And even though a horse like Serdelius, from the outside, you look at him, and he's in really good form. His last start winning the Turnbull, very good, but there's always that cloud over his head that he might not be able to get to a Melbourne Cup. Therefore, betting-wise, turnover-wise, it has to take a hit, doesn't it?
Yeah, perhaps, yeah. Do we know if Tab Touch and or the others, the corporates and all that, did they refund or anything? I should know the answer to that. I don't know.
I haven't seen
sometimes
anything like that. But
sometimes they do the old refund and all the rest of it.
But if you're on social media, racing social media on a Saturday, a lot of things can get lost.
Yeah, exactly. Look, you're right. It's just... And there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding Serdelius because he's been ruled out of the Cox Plate and the Melbourne Cup. Yet, as we sit here this morning, he could go north of the border and race in Sydney. Mm-hmm. Could he run around in the old Zipping Classic or whatever it is?
Well, a couple of stories I've read is he's ruled out of the Melbourne Spring Carnival.
Spring Carnival. So that is a Cox Plate and the Melbourne Cup, and is that the end of the Spring Carnival?
Well, I was trying to work out, could he run on Derby Day in the, whatever the...
Surely not.
No,
surely not.
That's a bad look. You couldn't do that.
And this is the other thing, isn't it? Because we've had a look at this, the statement, heightened risk of injury and the scans, and there's, materials injected into the leg, so it, shows up on X-ray and all the rest of it. You'd be a brave trainer to take him north of the border and run him in Sydney when you've got that veterinary advice that says this horse is, again, using the words, heightened risk of injury. If that is the situation, he's an entire, he's worth a lot of money. You don't want to be a doomsayer, but if you went there and something went wrong, horribly wrong, you open yourself up. You open yourself up to a lot of naysayers, put it that way.
Yes, you do. And then the quirky thing about it is if he returns to Melbourne in the autumn for example, an Australian Cup, he doesn't have to be scanned again to get the tick of approval.
No. Well, again, so there's the inconsistencies. But we do know bone, there's that remodelling of bones and legs. It's like anything.
I understand it can get better, but if you're sent back to trials because of behaviour issues or you're not leaving the gates properly, you need to go back to trials and sort of tick it off, so to speak.
Yeah.
He doesn't really need to be ticked off again to get back to Melbourne in the autumn.
No, he doesn't. Not at this stage. So if you're Gay and Adrian, do you get him scanned again in the autumn? Or do you just fly into an Australian Cup blind hoping that everything's okay?
Well, would they have known that this issue was there before?
Well, clearly not. I don't think so. But he's had two sort of separate scans. He's had the obligatory one, and then he's had the further investigation, a more in-depth analysis of his legs. And that one has reaffirmed what the initial one found.
And I know he's not the first horse that have unfortunately been scratched. I think Juan Bugle was the favourite or very close to the favourite last year and wasn't able to come out because of the scans. But the fact that we've seen him racing in Melbourne, I think he's had 3 starts, 1 in Sydney, 2 in Melbourne, and we've seen him racing so well. And then you get the scan and he gets pulled up stumps. We haven't seen that before.
No, we haven't. So that's the difficult part to digest. But I'll throw this at you and those, and, I feel for Gay and Adrian. I feel for their owners because this is an expensive horse. But what's a better scenario? The withdrawal of Sir Delius now, or at the 200-metre mark of the Melbourne Cup, Sir Delius shattering a bone and crashing to the ground?
Sheesh.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what these protocols were brought in for, to get ahead of the play.
Clint's text back, Tab Touch gave his money back for Sir Delius.
Well, there you go. Good on Tab Touch. That's good.
Couple of others just to get through before we get to Matt Welsh. Morning, guys. Off his Everest run. If Overpass heads to the Winterbottom, he'll win by 200 metres. Sam?
Yeah, it's going to be a gooder. It's going to be a really good Winterbottom. Those 2 weight for age races, when I say 2, the Group 1 here, the Group 1's here, the Winterbottom and also the Northerly, promise to be outstanding races. Outstanding races.
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
With the nominations.
He's never run a better race on a way to a Perth feature Overpass.
No. And Bjorn wasn't he, last week when we spoke, and he said, no, all the indicators are he is flying. He said to the eye, the data, the recovery, the pieces of work that he's put in, or certainly the piece of work he put in this week in the lead up to Saturday's Everest is as good as he's ever done. And he was backed up by that.
Rusty Gates, watching the build up to the running of the Everest on TV, it was great to see so many young people enjoying the party, and I thought that if you asked 95% of them who Kaying Rising was, then they would have said, what time is the band coming on?
Yeah, I reckon Kaying Rising would have got so much attention because he wasn't a $16 pop. I reckon most people who walked through the gates there on Saturday would have heard of Kaying Rising, personally, because he came with such a spruik.
Yeah.
Maybe if you'd said to them, name me 6 horses in the Everest, they couldn't have done that. I'm not denigrating their intelligence levels or racing knowledge, but I reckon Kaying Rising would have been able to turn their head.
It's an interesting argument because obviously you need to get people to the races for them to have the opportunity to enjoy the sport and fall in love with the sport. But do you use a party like that? Melbourne Cup Day, not Melbourne Cup Day, Champions Day. I think at the end of the day, Fisher, the DJ's playing.
Right.
So I think they'll get a lot of people to the races that day just to watch Fisher. But you're getting people to Flemington, the racetrack. If they have a good day, they stay. You might get them for one day in the autumn and then maybe it builds and builds and builds. How you get them to fall in love with maybe the wagering side of the sport or the animal side of the sport, I'm not too sure. But I think the first step is getting them to the races.
Well, I think there's been a transformation over the journey with racing, TC, and some will disagree with this, but back in the day, it was a male-dominated crowd. You just went. And then there's been eras where you just go there and it's just punting. That's it. And then 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago, maybe a little bit before, then you had the women, the fashions and all of that, and that drew immense crowds to the Melbourne Spring Carnival. And we've had some headline acts, particularly for Oaks Day, you know, Sarah Jessica Parker and Paris Jackson. I'm sure there's others that I haven't mentioned there, and it became that glitz and glamour. And now you're trying to get that younger demographic through. So it might just be moving to new era. What the next step is, I don't know what it looks like, but the more people you can have at the racetrack, we always bemoan, there's no one here or what. So we can't sit there and go, just because they're young and they're having fun and they might not be racing aficionados. That doesn't matter. They're at the races. They're having a good time.
It creates atmosphere.
Of course it does.
You go to the races with 50,000 people and they roar when someone backs a winner.
We talk about Perth Cup Day. We talk about Opening Day. We talk about the Pinnacles. That's Quokka Day. When there's a lot of people at Ascot, we all go, how good is this? That's what we want.
Mm. Yep.
I would have thought so.
All right. 0427 789 571. Have your say on the Sports Daily on anything. And, of course, we are taking on Matt Young, his best bets for Pinjarra. We'll get them at about 8:45 this morning. Time now on the Sports Daily to recap a big day at Caulfield. Matt Welsh joins us from betsy.com.au. Matt, a very good morning to you.
Good to be with you guys. No, fantastic day at Caulfield on Saturday. I hadn't been to the races for quite a while, but I went out to Caulfield in beautiful sunshine for Caulfield Cup Day, and I've got to say the club did a great job to get a terrific crowd on course, and the atmosphere was electric.
Matt, good morning. From afar, it seemed as if the win of Half Yours in the Caulfield Cup was a very popular one.
It certainly was. I mean, not just because punters backed this bloke like he was unbeatable. I mean, you don't see too many horses go around sub $2.50 in a Caulfield Cup, but he did. I think as much for Jamie Mellon. She became the first female jockey to win a Caulfield Cup on Saturday, but also felt like there was a bit of pressure on her almost to get another big race win. You know, a few people I'd spoken to queried whether she was riding in as best a form as she has throughout her career, and they were a little bit concerned about Half Yours from the low gate on Saturday. Would he be able to get clean air with Jamie aboard? But I thought she rode him just perfectly, kept him off the fence early, which was what you needed to do at Caulfield on Saturday. The inside, hard against the rail, probably wasn't the best ground, and he was the superior stayer. I actually thought he'd put River of Stars away a little bit easier over the concluding stages. River of Stars did a good job in second, and what about Valiant King? Since the blinkers went on him at Flemington last start, he's just gone to another level, so he was good back in third. In terms of how the race was run, they went quite hard, especially once Adelaide River took up the running. Didn't have the early lead, but took up the running in the mid stages of the race and really put the pressure on at that point. And I think that suited Half Yours, who was back midfield. It spread the field out a bit, and Jamie Carr was able to get to the outside in the straight, and the rest is history.
What are you thinking with Half Yours? If the horse pulls up okay, from your perspective, would you be pushing onto a Melbourne Cup?
Oh, I think absolutely. I think you have to. Fit, in form, gelding, none less, who clearly handles firm ground. I think you certainly push on. I doubt the 3,200 will pull him up. We obviously saw the loss of the favourite over the weekend, which we'll touch on shortly in the Melbourne Cup, and he's now $3.60. I think you absolutely push on. The main dangers probably are the internationals, namely Al Riffa, but yeah, I'd certainly be having a crack. And what an astute buy from Tony and Calvin McAvoy. I think Calvin was the one who convinced Tony to buy him. And they paid $305,000 in an online sale back in November last year. I managed to back him first up at Sandown this campaign. He was beaten in a benchmark 64 and now he's a Caulfield Cup winner.
The joys of the punt. If he does go there, and I know the market has been corrected big time with the scratching of Sir Delius, you talked about Al Riffa. Where does he sit in the picture in your humble?
Look, he's got to be hard to beat. He's a highly rated international. I've still got a bit more form to do on the race, but he brings outstanding form to Melbourne. I mean, the key with these internationals, though, I think we've now got a really extensive body of work, is it just depends how they settle in. We've seen some horses bring some outstanding Northern Hemisphere form to Australia, and they just don't settle in at Werribee. And conversely, it can often be the lesser-known international who just thrives down here in Melbourne, enjoys the firm tracks, whose form goes forward. So that'll be the key, how he settles in and, what track watchers have to say about his work at Werribee over the next week or two. But look, he's certainly got the credentials from a form perspective to be awfully hard to beat in the Cup. But, yeah, look, I think you absolutely have to press on with half yours. Just to the beaten brigade, I think punters at Maidan, the international, would have been tearing their hair out the first time out of the straight. Andrea Azzini, the Hong Kong, now riding in Hong Kong, jockey, managed to keep him 3 wide from gate 5. I don't think too many punters would have had him mapped there. And he covered more ground than the early settlers in a fast-run Cup. So I thought his effort, he looked like he was going to drop out on the home bend. I thought his effort in the straight once they balanced up was quite good. He looks like 3,200 or suit, so he might be one from back in the field out of the Caulfield Cup that could elevate.
All right, so we may as well touch on the Melbourne Cup now then with Sir Delius, that news breaking on Friday. What did you make of it? And we know, with a little bit of context to this chat, you have worked at Racing Victoria over the last couple of years.
Yeah, look, it's extraordinarily disappointing for Connections, and I imagine quite hard to rationalise when they go, well, the horse hasn't changed from a Turnbull Stakes, which he was able to win dominantly, just a couple of weeks ago. It's a double-edged sword for Racing Victoria. I mean, there was genuine pressure on the future of the Melbourne Cup when we saw that spate of deaths capped off by Anthony Van Dyke a few years ago, which ultimately instigated the protocols to be introduced. And another incident in the race is just not going to be palatable for the public, and it may not be palatable for politicians. So I think above all, getting 24 horses safely around in the Melbourne Cup has to be the number one priority. But it's ignorant to sit there and say, okay, this is the stance we're taking, and we're not going to take show the compassionate side towards owners who invest a lot of money in these horses, particularly Sir Delius, who's a very expensive purchase. Gay and Adrian have done a great job with him to get to this point. They're at a loss to explain how the scans have come back the way they have. They think the horse is in good order and potentially will press on up in Sydney this campaign if allowed to. But, having worked at Racing Victoria, I know that, the most nervous you are at any point in the year is the 3 minute 30 or so of the Melbourne Cup. You need all horses to get around as safely as you possibly can. So I've always been a big fan of the protocols. I say that, touch wood, they've been successful to date. And whilst incredibly unfortunate, you feel for Connections, I think Racing Victoria just have to stand behind the protocols they've implemented, be really proud of them and come out and just explain what's happened, be compassionate to Connections, and unfortunately move on without Sir Delius.
There were 4 words in that Racing Victoria steward's statement, Matt, which I think were quite jarring, but also highlighted the importance of having these scans. Heightened risk of injury. As soon as you read that, you went, oh, straight away you took a step back. And I know if you push emotion to one side and you look at it objectively, you go, okay, I can absolutely see where they're coming from.
Exactly right. And no horse and no personality is bigger than the race. The race needs to endure, it needs to survive. And you only need to look at New Zealand greyhound racing, Tasmanian greyhound racing, Canberra greyhound racing to see where the public pressure that these sorts of sports are under. And, I'm not suggesting that racing is close to the precipice like those jurisdictions, but, another death in the Melbourne Cup would just be very, very hard for the public to swallow. And you've got to, you look at Anthony Van Dyke. He was in outstanding form before he broke down as well. I think he ran second in the Caulfield Cup before he broke down on Melbourne Cup Day. So you've got to back the vets in so long as they're applying the rules consistently. And as I said, they have compassion towards the owners and the stables and they're communicating well. It's just the way it has to be because the potential downside is just far too great. And I'm sure in the light of day that both Gay and Adrian, whilst disappointed, will come to understand that, and hopefully we see Sir Delius back next autumn and potentially back in Melbourne next spring.
I think you've explained that really, really well. Matt, the other races on the program of note at Caulfield, the 1,000 Guineas, what a race that turned out to be. Holly Dancer and Apocalyptic down the straight at 2-horse war.
Yeah, it certainly was. They dominated the race up on speed. Apocalyptic, of course, Flight Stakes winner. She won the Princess, or the 3 races in the Princess Series up in Sydney. And Ole Dancer for Pete Moody, who was just sitting there calmly smoking a dart as they crossed the line, fairly emotionless and Catherine was obviously exuberant with her first Group 1,000 guineas, but it was a good performance by Ole Dancer. Apocalyptic had every chance up on speed. It was a beautiful ride from Mark Zahra. Maybe it was a little bit of an afterthought after the Flight Stakes. I think the stable had originally intended to head towards a spring champion stakes at 2,000 metres, which is this weekend, but she didn't lose too many admirers, and I thought got a good feeling. Yeah, she's really coming along nicely. I'm sure they'll probably head to a Wakeful Stakes next time out and potentially onto an Oaks, and she's one I'd probably want to be following up in trip. They really cleared out from the rest. It was a race dominated up on speed.
Matt, on a day laced with black type racing there at Caulfield, what else caught your attention?
I just thought Nashra Willer, his ride on Private Eye, who was heavily back, that was an excellent ride. He's an old warrior. He's won $12 million in prize money. And the punter's cheer as he went across the line was something to behold. I think Stepardi's one to follow out of the race there. He hit the line really well in a race dominated by the on-speed horses. And then earlier in the day, hard not to be impressed by Temptress, who got back to last. He was another heavily backed commodity there. There was a few favourites who saluted that punters certainly roared home at Caulfield on Saturday. And Temptress from the tail of the field, he was brilliant under Mark Zahra, reeling in raging force in the shadows of the post, and he'll now be awfully hard to beat in the Coolmore in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, absolutely. They've almost got their hands on the Coolmore already. Godolphin with the two top chances. So thank you very much for your time, Matt. Look forward to doing it all again next week, and hopefully breakfast at the Stars tomorrow morning's a little less newsworthy than it was last year.
No, absolutely. We'll be looking for the horse who gallops a couple of laps tomorrow, that's for sure. No, it's been a pleasure to join you guys, and we'll catch up next week.
There's Matt Welsh, of course, from betsy.com.au. You can read all his stuff on that website, reviewing Caulfield from the weekend and all the news coming up throughout the week. And, of course, there'll be something come out of breakfast with the Stars tomorrow, Diggers.
Oh, yeah. It's a great morning, isn't it? It's a great morning. All the horses galloping there and the access to all the trainers and jockeys. It's a wonderful day. So
the barrier draw for the Cox Plate tomorrow morning. After that, the final field will be revealed. I think the only question mark at the moment is Observer, and I think that'll be up to Connections whether or not they want to push on to a Cox Plate or not.
Would you?
Yeah, why not? Seems to be a wide open. I know you mentioned the market there, 205 via Sistine. She's clearly not going as well as she was last year.
Could she peak on Saturday?
Oh, she could, yeah, for sure.
You wouldn't be getting me at... She can win, most definitely she can. We know that, but you wouldn't be getting me at that quote.
No
way.
Here, right now, I'm not... I can't find a bet in the race at the moment, but we've got a week to dive into the form a little bit better.
Are you surprised that Carrying Rising got to the price he did on Saturday? I know he started short with the Whirlpools now, but he was out to 190, 195 there.
I think I saw 205 at one stage.
Remarkable, really.
Around the place, yeah. But I suppose everyone's sort of on already, I guess. And then if there's money coming elsewhere, then you can put him out.
We talk about Via Sistina. She was 205 half an hour ago. She's $2 now with Tab Touch.
Yeah, right. She must be about to do 4 laps. All right, we'll head out and we'll take a closer look at Ascot. Shaun McGruddy to join us after the traffic.
Make Tab Radio your station of choice. Each weekday morning from 5:30 with the Sports Daily.
All right, now time to dive a little bit deeper into the Ascot program there from Saturday. Plenty of talking points coming out of the features, the Crawford and also the Eurythmic, and we'll kick it off with the thoughts of jockey Shaun McGruddy after the win of Rope Them In at Ascot on Saturday. Shaun, good morning and thank you very much for your time.
Good morning, gentlemen.
How are you, Shaun?
Yeah, going good, thanks.
Good to hear. How were you when the gates opened in the Crawford?
Well, I had to go to Plan B pretty quickly.
Yes.
I didn't panic too much because I know he's a better horse sort of that often anyway, and as it turned out, they really flew along up front, so I wasn't all that too concerned. Just meant I had a bit more traffic to overcome.
Okay, so let's talk through the run itself from that initial setback when he was a little bit slow to step to the point of the corner, Shaun, and then in the straight.
Yeah, so after that, I just had to take my medicine. After I watched the replay, I realised I would have only been at one spot closer, I think, but as it turned out, I was following London's Image, and I thought I saw an opportunity to get around at the heels of Willie Pike, and his horse didn't really kick, and Flames Angel, who was off the bridle, all of a sudden got back on the bridle, so that sort of put me back in jail there. So I just had to go back to where I originally was, and I thought, well, we've got too much ground to make up, we can't possibly win. And just when I first went for him, he just went to lay in a little bit, and when I switched it over to the left and just give him one little tap, he straightened up and savaged the line like a good horse.
Were you expecting him to provide that turn of foot, Shaun?
Not quite like that, no. When I straightened up, I thought I'm too far off him to win. So that did take me by surprise a little bit. And I thought his second trial wasn't sort of him at his best. So I just sort of thought if Wolfie had him better than what he had in the trial, I thought he could win. But like I say, when I straightened up where I was, I didn't necessarily think I could win on the day.
And he flattened out like a nice horse. And we know he is a nice horse, Shaun.
That's right, yeah. Look, and whatever little niggle he has, Wolfie's always said that the real good horses, they don't let that stop them, and that was the case on Saturday.
Okay, so in the lead up to the weekend, Shaun, you know this horse better than most. Were you confident that was the rope them in of 2024 in the spring as opposed to what we saw in the autumn?
Yeah, that's right. So all preparation, I said to Wolfie, I think he's back to what he was in the summer and not in the autumn. And so that's more sort of internally and mentally. He's back to his best. But as with most horses in the winter, he's had a little niggle with his feet with the wet ground. And so that's sort of why, like I say, he didn't trial off the charts. But Wolfie's moved him back down to Albany now with the rest of the team. So I didn't get to gallop him on Tuesday as such, but his work between his trial and his race there on Saturday when he was in town has been outstanding.
So is he a pretty easy horse to read in that sense, Shaun? You say he's back, like you pretty much know that from the first one or two gallops this preparation?
Yeah, a good couple of gallops in, I said to Wolfie, I think he's back. And like I say, even his trial, I knew he was back sort of, like I say, internally and mentally. But just with his feet of late, there was a little question mark there. But like I say, Wolfie, as he does, he sort of gets them to where they need to be on race day.
Okay, so Peter Nucky was of the view that he's a sprinter. Am I right in thinking you're of that view as well, as opposed to a miler? And I think Steve is on record as saying perhaps we can get him to a railway.
Yeah, look, I think he's probably shown he's pretty fast and has an electrifying turn of foot. So I think he may be more to the sprinting side. But I think when I trialled him first up, probably 2 preps ago, I said to Wolfie, I think he could get a mile. So I think the main thing to realise is that I don't think Wolfie's ever trained him to get a mile as such. I think if he really wanted to screw him down and head that way, he probably could. But I think as it stands, I think he'd probably be better off going for the sprinting races.
Okay, so how much of a role do you have in the final decision here, Shaun? Because we know that you and Wolfie go back a long way and no doubt he seeks your counsel. Are you likely to be able to sway Steve one way or the other, or do you just leave it to Steve and owners?
Yeah, not really. I think sort of sometimes the more I tell Wolfie something, he does the opposite. So, but no, look, it's always up to him and the owners. I think mainly the trainer, Wolfie, it's up to him. But yeah, certainly we've been a good team in that regard as to sort of bouncing ideas off each other for a long time. So ultimately, I'll leave it up to Wolfie because it's his role, it's his horse, and that's his job. So I think whichever way he goes, they'll know he's there. I'll say that.
I know you spoke about it post-race, but you also mentioned the fact that the Winterbottom weight for age might not suit him.
It hasn't so far, but in saying that, I think if the horse that raced in the Winterbottom had turned up on Quokka Day, I think he would have earned some more money because he had a good run in the Quokka. He drew a good gate, and they didn't go that hard early, so that suited us as far as not being too close was concerned. But as you saw and as you know, in the autumn he wasn't quite 100% from the taxing summer that he had. So the jury's still out really if he can win at weight for age. Like I say, he wasn't right for that campaign, and the campaign before he was only a newly turned 4-year-old before Christmas. So far it seems he's not quite a weight for age horse, and he's not much of him. But yeah, who knows? Maybe he's more mature this time in. And as with any big race, to win the race you need the run of the race. So barriers make a big difference. If he can get the run of the race and have a soft run, maybe he could win at weight for age.
It's fair to say he was the highlight of a rather ho-hum day for yourself there, Shaun?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It was a funny day. Early in the day, nothing could win without cover. It was a funny day, but it was good to get a big one, that's for sure.
Will you be riding Roslaslav in the Belgravia on Saturday?
I think he's going to go the week later to the
Prelude. Okay. The first up performance, what did you make of it?
Oh, super. Yeah, he's probably only about 70 to 80% fit. He still does a bit wrong, but that was a good educational run for him. And, halfway down the straight, I thought we were going to win, and he just blew out late. So that was only his second start, so he's still learning what it's all about, but he definitely has a motor.
When do we see Red Can Man again?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that. Wolfie was a bit scathing of the Albany Race Club when he couldn't gallop anything on the grass on Tuesday, and I'm not sure how he's pulled up from his workout on the sand there. So probably one for Wolfie to discuss Red Can about, I think.
All right. What about the Pinnacles? What's the headline acts for you, Shaun?
Yeah, just the two you've mentioned, I guess, Rostislav and Rostin. Not really getting a lot of outside rides at the minute. Really just riding for Wolfie and again Jimmy. So hopefully something can bob up, and hopefully I can pick something up in the other races.
Well, they look two nice chances in some pretty big races, and we spoke about Rostislav last week. If he's able to sort out his racing manners a little bit, he should be pretty good at that 1,100, 1,200 metre mark. Shaun, thank you very much for your time, and all the best over the next couple of weeks.
Thanks very much, guys. I appreciate it.
There's Shaun McGruddy there, of course, riding Rope Them into victory, returning back to some of his best, carrying the 58.5, giving some quality opponents some weight and beating them up.
Good win. Really good win. Once he bungled the start, I thought, well, you're none. Honestly, I thought, well, you can't win, just because you're going to settle back there. But the effort of Rope Them In, and it was great to see. I must admit, TC, I wasn't with Rope Them In. I was with Super Smink on the weekend, and we'll touch on her in a second. But he's a serious animal, this fellow, and we saw what he was able to do 12 months ago, and it was great. He wasn't far away at all. And then we saw him in the autumn, and you thought, well, that's not the Rope Them In that we know. He's better than that, and clearly he is. And what you saw there on Saturday was more akin to the 2024 version, and that's a high-level sprinter. And that's what he is. He's a ripper. I think that's 8 or 9 wins now from 20-odd starts. He's won in excess of $1 million.
Yep, 9 wins, 21 starts.
Yeah. What's he won, stake money?
Stake money, 981,000.
It's good spuds. Good spuds for a really good horse. So, he was terrific. Really good. Terrific win.
So 4 of those 9 wins have come at 1,200 metres. 1,400 metres he's won twice at. Probably just dulls his turn of foot a little bit once he gets out of the 1,400 metres, but I think Shaun makes an important point there that Wolfie's never really trained him to get out to a mile, so that argument, I'm not sure we've seen the best of him out to 1,400 metres, and then we obviously haven't seen the best of him at 1,600 metres, but it's hard to see a horse at 1,200 with that turn of foot. He's almost too brilliant to get a mile.
Yeah, and yes, that's exactly right. And I think he ran, what did he run in the Gold Rush, 5th or 6th?
Oh, steaming home, yeah, he ran 5th.
5th, yeah. So he's probably, he's that 12, 14 horse, isn't he? That's him. Now, can he get a mile? Yeah, look, he might now as he's matured. He'll get down on the weights. He'll be running into a pretty handy field, it would seem. But, now Steve's got something to think about, hasn't he? Because he's returned in slashing form over the 1,200, and now you can chart a path, and wherever you want to go, you'll get to. If he wants to run him in a Winterbottom, he'll get a start. If he wants to run him in a railway, he will get a start. So it's a great position for Wolfie to be in.
Yep, so rated 104 before the weekend. So he's going to be clearly in a railway stakes if they choose to go that way, and he's going to be off the minimum, you would think. So that comes into calculations. The beaten brigade there on the weekend. London's Image, very good.
Terrific.
Took the trial form to the races.
Yeah, she did. She sort of lay out a little bit in the straight, but no, that was good. And she looked the winner at one stage there in the straight, didn't she? So it just reiterates that Grant and Alana have got a good handle on her. They've been, quietly confident that she's been working like a good horse, and she ran like one on the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Super Smink, I think you don't have to say too much about this run. You saw it. She ended up way further back in the field than I thought.
Yeah, that's the point here. Like, she lost sight of the bunny a little bit. She
settled behind Bustler at 1,200 metres. I didn't think that would be the case.
No, exactly. So, look, she does have a negative racing pattern. I think that's fair to say. And is that proving costly in some of these better races? Again, you could argue, yes, it is. So whether that's something that can be amended or whether you just have to take your poison with her and know full well buyer beware if you're a punter. You know, that's what you're getting with Super Smink. She started $3.30 on the weekend. She started the favourite. There was good support for her, but she got way back in this field. She was terrific. She ran home in 33.28. She was only beaten 3/4. She had the flashing light on her at 1,200. Now, she is being prepared for a 1,800 metre Group 1 double of a railway and also a Northerly. So as a start point, if you take away the punting aspect of it, you go, yep, she's gone super. And she has. But for those who are invested, you can sense their frustration.
Yep, absolutely. So she's only won 5 times. It's probably her racing pattern that has cost her a couple of runs. Certainly was this time last year, racing through the Pinnacle. She probably should have won. I know she won an Asian Bow, but she probably should have won even more. You could argue maybe a railway. She was arguably the run of the race in the railway. She's won 1.3 million, so I mean the connections aren't going to be upset at Super Smink. She's well and truly done her job, but she almost should be in the conversation around a Cosmic Crusader horses heading towards a railway that we're really excited about. It's just the fact that she probably doesn't win out of turn due to that racing pattern, and that's highlighted by the fact that her last 600 was 33.28.
Yeah, she's low-level flying. She was low-level flying on the weekend. But as a start point, it's perfect. Now, I'm sure there's an element of frustration internally, and certainly there is externally, but you wouldn't be sacking her off that.
Oh, no.
Absolutely not.
You just need to probably take into her next runs that she's probably just a horse that can't hold a spot. She just doesn't show any gate speed, and that's why she finishes off like she does.
It would seem so. That you're right, that she's not holding a position regardless of the gate.
Yep, exactly right. Rockanori, very good.
Good, yeah.
Another horse from back in the field that ran on, so that just highlights the fact that they went pretty quick in this race. And Norwich, to run 5th, I thought did a really good job to hold on.
Yeah, $91, jumped, ran them along, and again, at the furlong, you thought, okay, what are we looking at here with Norwich? But he was gunned down late by Rope Them In, London's Image, Smink, and also Rockanori, but ran well.
Yeah, Storyville, you'd say a tick, probably 1,200 metres short of her best. She wasn't beaten too far. Twain's Angel, probably a little bit disappointing on the back of the run that she got.
Yeah, she got into the spot that you thought, okay, and as you heard from Shaun there, she was off the bridle, on the bridle, only beaten 2.5, but maybe that's, one thing we did see with her last time in, she built into her campaign.
Yep.
She got stronger and stronger as her preparation went on. So this was start number 2. Watch for her to improve off that.
Cripple Ankle Angel, Undercover, Bustler, Man Crush, Aztec Ruler, anything to add?
I think Aztec Ruler was, look, he covered some extra ground, but he went around as a $12 pop, Aztec Ruler. He was beaten 7 3/4, so that was perhaps a little bit surprising. Bustler not suited at 12. Angel Undercover will be suited over further. Man Crush drew high. Was always going to be a tough assignment. Rope Them In, no knock. Was brilliant. Really good. Really, really good. Deserve that win.
Right here, right now, are you expecting to see him in a Winterbottom?
I don't know. Shaun's of the view that he's a short course horse. I know that Peter Nucky, who rode this horse, was also of that view. But Wolfie, I think we've had him on radio a couple of times in the past 3 to 4 weeks. He has both times said he'd like to get him to a railway. Is that going to move the needle a little bit, that performance on the weekend? It might. We'll just have to wait and see.
And it's not like there's an easier assignment, because in a Winterbottom you run into the likes of probably Overpass and Joker's Grin, and then you go up to the 1,600 metres and you're going to probably run into a Cosmic Crusader who's down on the minimum and absolutely flying. So it's not like there's a softer option, so to speak.
No. And to be fair, this time of year there's nowhere to hide, and that's to be celebrated. That's what we want. We want these good horses butting heads in the big races.
Yep. All right. What's the key takeaway from the Eurythmic Diamond scene? We've spoken about the ride of Clint Johnston Porter to keep William Pike in that pocket was absolutely outstanding.
Yep.
Comfort Me runs the race. He always runs. He was honest. I thought Bonjoy, massive tick.
Great run by this mare. Really good to see her savage the line in the manner that she did, to be beaten only a length running into 4th. She got past some pretty handy ones, it must be said, so that was good. Diamond Scene, the ride by CJP was a 12 out of 10. Brilliant. Assessed the situation, tactics. Not only did he get to the breeze outside Comfort Me, when William was hoping to poke up to the outside of Comfort Me and to the inside of Diamond Scene, CJP said, well, no, you're not getting in here, son. And then William was having to wait. And then by the time he was able to see clear air, Diamond Scene was off and gone. So it was a great ride by Clint. Comfort Me, good. Watch Me Rock, no knock. He wouldn't be dropping off him. He was good. Bonjoy, terrific. Magnificent Andy, perhaps a little bit disappointing. Had to carry the 59.5. Admiration Express was fair. Hemlock Stone was good late through the line. Zip Away ran last. So he's a watch going forward. You'd think he'd take some benefit from that. Certainly his fractions late were all right.
Yeah,
as silly as it sounds.
Finished off the final 600. He's broken 34 seconds.
Yeah.
Just the way that race was running. The winner sat second, the runner-ups led the race, and then Watch Me Rock, who you can make the argument should have won, was on the back of the leader. So you can understand how this race was run, the way Zip Away races from back in the field in a slowly run race. He's never really going to be able to get into it.
No, I thought Memory Parade, entitled to race in easier grades than that one on the weekend, was actually good, running 6, beaten 2.5. But Diamond Scene, that's a perfect start point, isn't it, for a horse who's going to find his way to a third Perth Cup on January 1.
Yeah, absolutely. You'd probably stop by a railway stakes too, you'd think, Diamond Scene, and if he's fresh enough, we've seen him sprint well enough, he's going to drop in weight.
Well, we spoke to Lam Peters in studio, didn't we? And he said, look, we're trying to get as many to the big races as we can, and Diamond Scene along the way is probably going to end there. You're spot on.
Yeah, absolutely. The rest of the program, anything else to make note of? The win of eccentric nature in the last was dynamic.
Yeah,
the turn of foot was awesome. We spoke about Black Aura. That was another awesome win for Adam Durant and William Pike, who are just unveiling these 1,000-metre sprinters at the moment.
And let's give a bit of a shout-out also to Ryan Hill with this Rubens ceiling. He's now 2 for 2. He's a son of King's Legacy. He's a 3-year-old. He's won at 1,300 metres now. He's won a 3-year-old 14. Now, it wasn't the strongest 3-year-old 1,400-metre race that we've seen, and they only went along at a pretty pedestrian speed. But he might be a player in a Guineas. He'll be headed that way, you would think.
Yep, absolutely.
And Just St. James, I thought, first up, terrific.
Yeah, yep.
Better. He's a better horse than the grade he raced in on the weekend.
Yep, trialled well and took that to the races. All right, head out to a couple of messages from our sponsors. Of course, 0427 789 571. The number to text if you've got anything to say about the results there at Ascot or anywhere.
Ragtag Radio, your station of choice. Each weekday morning from 5:30 with the Sports Daily.
And Brad Hardie not too far away. We'll catch up with him shortly. Time to get through a couple of text messages nice and quick. Correct from Rossmoyne. I mocked TC on Friday when he repeated his usual tip of Chowell for his blind faith. Well, touche, Taylor. You did know what you were talking about. Well, I think I was just having a dig at you, Diggers, because you don't like the horse.
No, I know we had a bit of fun at Chowell's expense, but credit where it's due. And we spoke about it. He's a seriously good horse, isn't he? You don't win back-to-back King Charles if you're a monkey. So good on him for going there and doing what he did. Great ride, shades on. Well done by Joe Pride. And look, it's a really good effort. I was with Pericles, who loomed the winner, but certainly Chow Wolf was able to get that run through the field as opposed to Pericles.
Yep, absolutely. Betty from Bunbury, he was invested on Super Smink. No frustration here. She wins the railway and possibly the Northerly. She's a superstar. Getting on Diamond Scene at the $14 did help.
Yeah, well done. Yes, Diamond Scene. I put my hands up. Did not think he could land in that position, and I thought, he'll go back and he'll rattle home and he won't run top 4, but he'll run well. CJP, Mickey Grantham, they saw otherwise and they were bang on, so well done.
All right, Mick's got in touch as well. Split the G, very plain on the weekend. Super Smink will have her best year.
Super Smink will
have her best year.
Best year?
Best campaign, I suppose.
Oh, I hope she does. Split the G was okay. 14. Yeah, it was a funny run race. What did they run? 125 and a half or something. It wasn't a genuine run affair, that one. And you had Ruben Sealing sort of flooding down the middle of the track.
Got over the top at some time, Lucky.
Yes.
Summed up the day. You know you're going to have a bad day on the punt when you drive over a nail on Friday, Diggers. Punctures your tyre.
Whereabouts did you do that?
Not sure.
When did you learn that your tyre had come to grief?
When I got home from picking the boys up from daycare.
And it was flat.
And it
was,
yeah, like me. Any of the horses at Ascot heading to the Tuesday Melbourne Cup meet? This is Mick as well at Ascot. And will you guys do a preview of that meet? I think in the years gone by, we haven't had a Sports Daily Melbourne Cup day, but I think that might change. Being our last Melbourne Cup day.
Fingers and toes crossed that we get there.
Well, it's 14-ish days away, so fingers crossed.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get to this, man.
On the Sports Daily, it's time to introduce the 1985 Brownlow medalist from the Footscray Football Club at Brad Hardie. This segment is proudly presented by Retrovision, Loans 123 and Ross's Auctioneers and Valuers. Introducing the boy from Hilton, the AFL guru, Brad Hardie.
Good morning to you, Bradley.
Morning, Diggers. Good morning, TC. Plethora of sport to get through. You sure you didn't just do it in Bunnings on the weekend, on Friday, did you, TC? Running over the nail?
No.
Go to Bunnings at all?
No, I haven't been to Bunnings for, I don't know.
Aisle 59?
Yeah. No, that's not my sort of store, Brad. Bunnings, funnily enough.
No, me either.
Try and find someone to do it for me.
Do it yourself, stick it up, whatever.
Yep.
That's for sure. Plenty to get through. What a weekend it was, Diggers. Cricket, racing was magnificent. Ange Postecoglou got the lemon. It just goes on, and the footy continues to roll on, boys. So wherever you want to go, I'm happy to go with you.
Well, let's get the footy out of the way before we look at some racing and other summer sports, Brad. Archie, what's the latest?
Well, look, I know there's been a little bit of chatter about him. They've got Starcevich, and West Coast have been a little proactive, Diggers, and they're going to go into their draft as they needed to with a good hand. But here's a chance. There's a chance here. Now, I did speak with my Brisbane spy and my South Fremantle spies across the weekend, TC. The lad wants to come home. Now, I know he wanted to go to Fremantle initially. They didn't have the capital to put up, and they didn't have the cap space. Fair enough. He wasn't really keen on going to West Coast. Some people were suggesting something to do with his brother from a few years ago. That's fine. Okay, so it didn't come together. Then it didn't come together, so he chose Adelaide. I'm not sure about his manager, to be brutally honest, but they've chosen Adelaide, and Adelaide and Brisbane couldn't come to an agreement to get him there. But it's closer in Adelaide, apparently, than it is in Brisbane to Perth, so be it geographically. But he does want to come home. So West Coast, go and have another lick. Don't let let him put a price on his head and expect him to walk through to selection 14. He's a two-time premiership player, TC, just turned 28, Diggers, got a good 3 or 4 years. Yes, you have to stump up the money in the front end of the contract to match it, to see off, Adelaide, but that's fine. They should have the room. I mean, who else are they paying? I'd be absolutely, if St Kilda can do it, surely West Coast can find. The upside is unbelievable. If your auntie had whiskers, she'd be your uncle, Diggers. But he should have won the 2024 Norm Smith medal, I think it's fair to say. He was right in the frame. He's got that 2 premiership experience. He's 28. He's only played 170 games. It's not as if he's worn out. He can play many roles. He can bring, again, he's a great little character. And he brings in a little bit more experience and something to pass on to the young boys. So I think it's a no-brainer. West Coast, get creative, get going, and see if you can get into Western Australia. That's where he wants to be.
What if he says, I'll play devil's here, and I get where you're coming from, Brad. What if he says, I don't want to play for you?
Well, my understanding, the scuttlebutt will tell you he's already said that because he had his heart on Fremantle. But it's changed. If he wants to come home, Diggers, he's got no choice.
What if he says, Brad, what if he says, I don't want to play for you. I want to play for Adelaide, so do not pick me. What do you do then if you're West Coast?
Well, like I say, ask the question, and if you get that answer, well, at least you know. But I think it's worth investigation because if he wants to come home, Adelaide's not Western Australia. I mean, and he's got to go with that. He might re-sign with Brisbane. I don't know. But let's see what happens. He's still got a bit of time to do that. But I would think West Coast should stump up again, go again, put it to him, try and mend the bridges if there's some sort of, of course. But gee, I tell you what, the way they're going, at least they're looking a little bit positive about what they're doing, TC, at the moment. Add him there, and I think, in 2 years' time, and he's still only going to be, just turned 29, 30, West Coast hopefully are back as a competitive outfit, and he's going to be a large part of it. It's a no-brainer and a free hit.
Yep. We didn't talk too much about them last week, Brad. They were sort of down the pecking order a little bit, West Coast, and Diggers and I have touched on it a little bit, but as you mentioned there, you have to be pretty positive about their trade season, free agent sort of season, West Coast.
Yeah. Look, I think they've done reasonably well. But the big good thing is they're able to get a couple in, as Digger said. But they've also got plenty of draft choices. That's what they've got to do. They've got to go to the draft. And people keep telling you that it's a shallow draft, but we always find these gems. You know what I mean? There was about half a dozen players or more on either side running around at Geelong and also Brisbane in that grand final who come through rookie drafts. So you can't say, you just don't know where you find those diamonds in the rough. But quite clearly, they've got a handful of good choices, and they might pick two, who knows, and get two more in that first round for that. But at least they've got a little bit. As I say, Taylor Young's not David Dench, but it helps. You've got Starcevic coming in the door, and that's the other thing with Archie. He might be a little bit of insurance, because we know, unfortunately for Starcevic, love him or love it or not, if he gets one more bang in the head, who knows what's going to happen with it.
Now, a little bit of racing news, if we can. Sir Delius is going to be nominated for the Craven Plate in the wake of what we learnt last week, Racing Victoria and the stewards. And Mark Zara has been booked to ride Al Riffa, chasing a third cup win in 4 years.
Mark Zara.
Yeah, El Riffa, I got all the... a mate of mine's got a share in that. Johnny Double, somehow, only got a hair on the tail, but they put together their money. They got a share in El Riffa. I think we all got that video, didn't we, Diggers, a couple of months ago, when I trying to find a little bit of interest in that horse, TC, and the boys stumped up, and they've got, I don't know what they paid, $4 or $5 million for the horse total, but so it's a big outlay, but they could get it back. This Melbourne Cup is shaping up. I think this is one that could, be only a few live chances going into it by the look of it. But yeah, it was bad. Sir Delius was a bad one. Look, they've tried to tighten it up, boys. You boys understand racing far better than I. But with what they've been doing with the MRIs and the CAT scans and all of that sort of stuff, it just wasn't possible. But I'm surprised that Sir Delius is going to race in Sydney, where other horses in the past have been blocked around the world from racing, Digger. So I don't know what's going on there. But it's better to be err on the side of caution, I suppose. It's disappointing for connections to Sir Delius, who would have been an absolute live chance, no doubt. But yeah, now half yours goes there as well. What a race it could become.
Yes, got a 2 kilo penalty, half yours for the Melbourne Cup, so he gets in there and the like. TC, I haven't asked you, are you comfortable with that announcement and decision by Racing Victoria stewards on the back of veterinary advice, Sir Delius?
Well, yeah, I think so. I think you have to be comfortable. Brad, we spoke to Matt Welsh, who's worked... he's not there anymore, but he worked for Racing Victoria for a couple of years there, and he said the Melbourne Cup was under some serious pressure. And if we lose Melbourne Cup, if you love or hate racing, and it's 3,200 metres, and we understand where racing's going here in Australia, but it's still the number one day for racing in Australia to showcase itself. And if you lose any sort of tradition with the Melbourne Cup, then you're in real trouble. And unfortunately, on this occasion, Sir Delius and the connections there have taken the hit for hopefully the betterment of the race.
Oh, well, I think the good thing to come out of it, I think, was the response from Gay Waterhouse, Diggers. She didn't jump up and down. Absolutely, you're disappointed. Of course you're going to be disappointed. There's no doubt about that. But it wasn't a song and dance routine and throwing the arms up in the air and all that sort of stuff. So I think we all understand. I think we've been conditioned now that the horse's welfare is first and foremost, as it has always been, but even more so, as you say, TC, with the Melbourne Cup, because we have lost a few along the way, and, it could happen anywhere, but and that we know how well these horses are really looked after when they're in training and the like. So, but yeah, they make rules. You've got to stick to them. Otherwise, why have them?
Yeah, exactly right. Look, I know people are upset. I get that, but we just can't afford another fatality on the biggest day of racing in this country. It's as simple as that.
Is the Everest catching up to the Melbourne Cup? It's not there yet, but you've got to think. I mean, the Whirlpool, and the figures that are going to be released today will be mammoth. There's no doubt about that. And we had the Usain Bolt of the equine world in Kaying Rising come over and do what he did on the weekend, and it was nice backhand from Zach Purton after the race. I don't think you saw him at his best today, but he didn't have to be. Bang! He certainly gave it to them, and David Hayes cock a hoop, and why wouldn't he be? It's great. I mean, this horse is globally known, and he's the best sprinter in the world. Just wish Black Caviar was reincarnated. I'm sure they'll try and put a race together somehow over the next few years. But such the popularity of this particular horse, boys. They flew down a Hong Kong caller. It wasn't Darren McCauley. It wasn't Darren Flindell. It wasn't Matty Hill. But let's just take in TC the last 50, 100 metres of the way the Hong Kong caller called it.
Sorry, Brad, we don't have that in the system at the
moment. Seb, what have you done? I said it to Seb. I wanted him to load it up. He may not have seen the tab, but we'll try and get it up before the end of the show. But that's all right, end of the segment. But yeah, it was fantastic to hear.
Look, I think. Look, the Everest is great for what it is, but I think we just need to pump the brakes and wait until Tuesday week, and then the whole country comes to a stop with a Melbourne Cup. Like it's our race. It is the nation's race. It is the great race. Now, it's a staying race, and it might not be everyone's cup of tea. And you will have international runners in there, and people will say, "Well, what's that horse? I don't know anything about it. So which way do I go?" But look, I think we just enjoy them for both what they are. The Everest is a great race. It's glitzy, glamorous. It's everything that you want. Big crowd, young crowd. It's great.
Let's get the teachers stopping school as well. Get back to that.
Yeah.
Show it in school.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. Make it a national holiday, just not a holiday in Victoria, as we treat it. But as you say, Diggers, they're both great races. But again, it's just pushing ahead, Pete. He's doing a great job. You can't knock it. I mean, that's what we like. And horse racing is more about sprinting in Australia than staying, isn't it? Really. And we do love the Caulfield Cup. We love the Melbourne Cup, etc. But it's starting to really push the envelope now. But I'm with you, Diggers. I love them both, but it should be an absolute cracker. And hopefully between the three of us, we might be able to find the winner Tuesday week.
Gee whiz, I couldn't tell you the last time I found the winner of the Melbourne Cup. Diggers, help me.
El Rifford's got to be hard to beat, doesn't it?
Well, when we talked about him after he won the Irish St. Ledger, I think he was $6, and we spoke to Jamie Lovett 2 or 3 days later. I'm not sure what price he is now, TC, and he will need to undergo all those scans as well, will he not?
Would have done that before he left one scan,
you would think so, but will he have another? I'm not entirely sure. Al Riff is still $6, half yours, who will carry 53 kilos now in the Melbourne Cup after that 2 kilo penalty. $3.50 with tab touch.
Well, good for the race if half yours does kick on, to be fair.
Agree.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well done to Jamie Carr-Mellon. That was fantastic. First woman in 146 years running of the race. It was a sensational effort. It was a great ride. Presented beautifully, as you say, boys, and I'm sure she's very, very excited. And Marty and I spoke to Calvin McAvoy yesterday, and he sounded a bit dusty, boys, I can tell you that. He'd been gargling nails. Might have been that nail he found in your tyre. TC, no doubt about that. But good for her. It was terrific. Our boy, Oscar Piastri, is under the pump. Under the pump now. We were so comfortable a little while ago, weren't we, Diggers? And with 5 races to go, I think at the turn of the summer, their summer, not ours, I think Verstappen was 90 points behind, or 97 points behind. He's only 40 behind. Lando Norris was 14 behind. Oh boy. There's a bit of tightening there around the freckle. That's for sure. With Oscar, he's got to find a way over the next 5 races. I'm sure he can, but I don't think McLaren are helping his cause too much. Do you?
I was going to say, it's a bit hard to win it when your own team don't want you to win it. Freaking hell's going on there?
Yeah, you just take the gloves off, mate. Because if you win a drivers' championship and you ignore it. I mean, it's the weirdest team orientation I've ever seen. To be brutally honest, as you say, you pull over and let him pass and all this sort of crap. I'm sure someone pick him up, because if you can find one of the best drivers, and he is, there's no doubt about that, and put him in a good car, he's going to challenge for you, and that's what the constructors want as much as anything else.
Yep, exactly right. The cricket, Brad, we didn't learn too much yesterday. Unfortunately, they picked the one day in WA that you could have played cricket, and it was raining.
Well, I've never been able to work out the Billy Duckworth, Chris Lewis system. I don't know if you can, Diggers, but it's really strange. It was a bad toss to lose for India. And look, it stuck up on us, I reckon. I mean, I didn't even know the Indians were in town until I saw a bit of a vox pop on the news when they're getting off the bus, and that was about all they. Kohli and Shaun, they've had their day, but they're on their farewell tour, the John Farnham tour. I would have liked to have seen a bit more about them, etc. They struggled. Well done to the Bison. He's flying at the moment, which is really, really good. Michael Vaughan thrown up that he could open for Australia. I'm not sure that's going to happen. But we've still got to solve that problem, Diggers, because Marnus Labuschagne, he's done what we, and I want to talk about us three, as much as the country said, go back to Sheffield Shield and make runs. Well, he's done that. He's made 4 centuries, 3 of them in Shield, so he's done the right thing. But don't put him in as opener. Put him back at number 3, maybe drop Green down to 6. And who do you think should, boys? Could they go with Mitch Marsh, or do they go with Weatherall? Who do they go with?
Remove Mitch Marsh from the conversation, Brad. He's not playing Test cricket again in the short term, and I dare say long term. He's not.
Yeah.
I don't think he's hard hearts. He won't. It's like the Cam Bancroft. Just park it. We need to park it. He's not going to be there.
Yeah, well, as I say, it wouldn't be the worst thing, though. You've got to admit. He's so bravado and so courageous and so, just cavalier. I mean, because Kawad's is going to sit on his bat. You know that. He's going to sit on his bat at the other end, and they're looking for that run maker to get him off the mark, just to try and break up the bowling of the English coming across. And I know I'm with you. I hear you, and I agree with you. I think it's going to be a non-starter, but they could do a lot worse because, as I say, when you start looking for someone else to step up to the plate, it's not a Cox Plate field. That's for sure.
Okay, so if you're putting him into the top 6, what's your top 6 look like?
Oh, I think obviously Khawaja, Marsh. Marnus,
in order.
Smith.
Are you want to open?
Yeah,
with
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm just saying. If he comes in, that's where I'd put him. And then you go to Marnus at 3. You don't expose him at opener. He's just got back into form, so don't fix it. So leave him there. Smith at 4, Head at 5, Green at 6, and then we work our way through the obviously Carey and the bowlers down the line if we play him in, depending on what pitch they're playing on.
Where does Green bat, Diggers? Where's he best suited? Sounds like he's probably going to have to bat 3, but is that where he's best suited?
Well, it depends what Steve Smith wants to do as captain. The captain has the final say. Steve Smith might say, I'm batting 3. I don't know. I think Green has shown enough at 3 to suggest he's worth persevering with. Like, he's your future. If you've identified him as a prodigious talent who's capable of batting in the top order, give him an opportunity at home against England, I would have thought.
Yeah.
You open with Marnus, you open with Khawaja, you get the right-left combinations, perfect. They know each other's game particularly well. Marnus has done all he can do. He's made a stack of runs. You bat Green 3, you bat Smith 4, you bat Head 5, and hopefully Webster's fit. I think Webster's a really good cricketer. He bats 6,
he is.
Carey 7, and then you go.
Well, if Marnus doesn't play, what's the point of the Sheffield Shield?
Well, exactly. And you go to Marnus, you say, hey, you need to score some runs. It is now a bat-off between you, Constance, Weatherald, and Marnus says, yep, okay, well, there's my CV. And you go, well, it's actually pretty irresistible, isn't it? So we'll play you. And you know he's good at that level. His best is really good.
How would you know what George Bailey's doing? I mean, he is the most confusing person in Australia, I reckon. He says on the weekend, the Greens, got to pull up a bit stiff from the Sheffield Shield game, so we'll rest him from the white ball game. Fair enough. No problem there. That's okay. But didn't know that Cummings had gone through his tests on Friday, and I haven't heard. I don't know what the latest is. Seriously? You're the chairman of selectors, mate. Of course you would know what's going on with Cummings, whether it just confounds me, George Bailey. I mean, he's becoming the most embarrassing person in cricket for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Cameron Green, that's obviously a side strain that...
It's not great.
No, but at this stage it sounds like Brady's going to play Test 1, but after that, and whether or not he bowls too many overs whatsoever, if any, at all, that's probably the question mark. So he's going to be, at this stage, just a batsman.
Christopher Mill for us, and Haynes Postecoglou obviously got the lemon and sauce on the weekend, 39 days, we know about that. Sam Allardyce did it in 30, but his contract ran out, so technically it was, unfortunately for Ange, he takes over a blotch in his escutcheon, but how can you do that in 39 days, 8 games, okay, didn't win, trade window or, recruiting window open in 2 months, go out and buy some players. This bloke sacks coaches for fun. I think it's 17 in the last 19 years or 19 in the last 17 years, wherever he's been. Of course, maybe go and borrow some players from somewhere else, whether it's Spurs or whatever. It's familiar because they're a very defensive unit, and now he's trying to make them attack, Diggers, and unfortunately they're coming up second best. So I don't know how you do it. But mind you, TC, I'd love to get a job where you fail and get sacked out and paid millions. That'd be lovely.
Yeah, buyer beware. And look, a lot of people were saying it wasn't the right job for Ange, but the ego said, no, I want to get back into the EPL managerial stakes. So, unfortunately, his CV's now tarnished in England, and you wonder where he... Look, I'm not saying he won't get another job, but you would think he's going to have to do some pretty hard yards now, or might have to look abroad, I would have thought.
All right.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Diggers.
All right, we'll do it all again tomorrow, Brad.
Yeah, look forward to it, boys. For Morts, Group 1 Morts, 17 stores. Got to be one near you. Don't forget the Nude Nut, 1800 100 100. He can do things the banks can't. And don't forget Frankie Lee at Ross's Auctions, boys. He's a champion also. Have a good day.
1985 Brownlow medalist.
Brand Hardie is proudly presented by Retrovision, Loans 123, and Ross's Auctioneers and Valuers. Retrovision, lowest price guaranteed. RAC members save 5%. Loans 123 for all your loan needs. Call Steve Sell on 1800 100 100. Ross's Auctioneers and Valuers, the leading auctioneering firm in WA.
Nighttime Radio, your station of choice. Each weekday morning from 5:30 with the Sports Daily.
Welcome back to the Sports Daily. Taylor Courtland and Digby Beacham with you. Time to get through a couple of text messages. Now, you're not happy with Mitch Marsh opening?
No.
No, it won't happen.
We can't open.
Gary from Thornley. Marsh will open. And Green will be out with injury for at least 3 tests.
I'd be surprised if Mitch... I would be more than surprised if Mitch Marsh opened in the Ashes. I'd be flummoxed.
Well, he won't play.
I don't think he... Yeah. I'm sure deep down he wants to play, but I think Mitch is now of the view and has come to terms with the fact that his test days are over and he's now very much the white ball man for Australian cricket, and he's at peace with that. It seems like he's at peace. He'd never knock back. If they came to him tomorrow and said, Mitch, we're guaranteeing you the Ashes at home, clearly he would say, absolutely, that'll be wonderful. But when you talk Ashes with Mitch Marsh now, you can see it in his eyes. It's like, no.
What are you saying at a couple of press conferences? He's bought tickets, but he hasn't really thought about... Or he hasn't,
and I think that's when Mitch is at his best. He's happy. Yep. He's happy at the moment. He's relaxed. And the mood around the Australian cricket side with Mitch Marsh in it is a very, very jovial environment. And that seems to be where the Australian cricket side wants to be. It's a much more relaxed place now than it perhaps was 6, 7, 8 years ago.
I think it's a pretty simple conversation, isn't it? If you need to make changes to the batting lineup, the first in is Marnus.
Yes.
You make it, you should see the batting lineup, shuffle it around however you wish.
Yeah.
And then if you need to bring in another batsman, it's Weatherall.
That might require some tinkering, though, because I think Weatherall, if he is playing, he's at the top of the order, and you're getting Marnus back at the top of the order. Yep. Now, if Khawaja was to fail, but I think
he's going to play 5 tests.
That's it. So, therefore, I'm not sure. Steve Smith is staying. Travis Head is staying. 6, not sure, and 3, not sure. Green, fitness, Webster, fitness, and both probably a little bit of, or certainly Webster form, but fitness and form, where Green's fitness. So Marnus will get an opportunity, and I think he gets the Ashes. I think Usman gets the Ashes. Steve Smith most definitely gets the Ashes, and Travis Head, no issue there.
Yep.
So Weatherall, not sure where he fits. McSweeney's not exactly hitting them out of this.
Well, that's what I mean. There's only 2 sort of batsmen in form that you could pick, and then you just have to work it out from there.
If you're to be really harsh, the Australian batting stocks aren't as deep as they should be, and most definitely aren't as deep as they have been.
No. So if you line up the 2, England, Australia, the 2 batting lineups, you'd say England have the edge there.
Yes, they do.
But the edge in the bowling stocks is probably greater in Australia's favour.
Yes, but a watch on Cummins and his fitness, because he's just, wonderful. His ability to get that ball to, move in and then dart away off the seam. Like, he's automatic. He bowls at good speeds. He doesn't give the batsman any width. And he leads that side particularly well. So it's now over to Steve Smith.
Jim's text in on the Restriction text line. Did CJP decide to ride Diamond Scene instead of Bonjoy, or did they choose Chris over CJP? How did that work out?
CJP elected to ride Diamond Scene.
I think if there's a Cerise and White runner in the race, that's the way he would go more often than not.
Yep, correct.
That's 100% knowing. Jay from Beelia. Too many muddling run races at Ascot. It's an ugly look, in my opinion.
Yeah, there were a couple of races there on the weekend which didn't go along at a genuine tempo. I think that's fair to say, TC. It doesn't look good. We saw that at Northam on Thursday. There were some races up there which were run at a farcical tempo. Let's be honest. And it's not just this jurisdiction. Unfortunately, it happens a little bit in Victoria more so than New South Wales, I think.
Yeah, yep.
And it's a bit of an eyesore, and Personally, I don't like it because I think it places some of the jockeys at a significant disadvantage and it jeopardises their well-being. Because if you're strung up on a horse who's hitting the bridle and you've got nowhere to go, if your leader's back or three back the fence and you've got horses in and around you and horses to your offside or to your outside and, the tempo is really pedestrian, where do you go?
Yeah, no.
You can't go anywhere, and then perhaps, and you hope it's not the case, but you clip heels. You don't want that. You don't want horses climbing over the back of others.
No.
So, I think it's up to the riders to call each other out, but I'm not sure they're doing that. And part of me understands that because you're trying to get that tactical advantage.
Yeah.
But the safety of your fellow riders must be paramount.
Yeah, and I know you want to prevent anything before it happens, but I use the example now. It's a 4-horse field. It wasn't super dangerous, but the way Blake Shinn rode Globe, and you could argue he went too slow, but he's given Globe every possible chance to win that Might and Power race, and he has. Probably the only way he was ever going to beat Treasure the Moment or Buckaroo. Therefore, it's probably up to the other jockeys, Damien Lane and James McDonald on Buckaroo, to do something about what happened.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
I do. But that one is different than what we probably saw at Northam and what we might have seen there at headquarters on the weekend, because
you get to the top and you've had to work a little bit there and then you slam it on.
Yeah, and it's a 4-horse field. That one was 4-horse field. There's plenty of room there, so you're not in congestion. You're not bouncing off other horses. But when you've got not capacity fields, but fields of more than 8, 9, 10, and then someone thinks, "Yep, I'll go there and drop anchor." No good. Personally, I don't like it.
No, but I suppose the point I'm trying to explain is sometimes going too slow, in quotation marks, gives that horse the best chance of winning that race.
Sometimes.
Not all the time?
Not all the time.
It's a type of horse that you have to do that with.
You look at First Beach on the weekend, 4 deep, no cover, on top of the speed, and was still able to win that race because they'd gone so steady.
Mm-hmm.
4 deep on a hot speed, no hope. Don't care who you are, you're not winning that sort of race. But First Beach was able to sit parked and could go when Clint wanted to go, and Julie did.
Yep, that's a perfect example of being wide on cover. Without cover is probably a better spot to be in some races than it is to be all the way out the back trying to search for cover.
Yep.
Rick, I think the Johnston Porter boys are going to dominate for years to come.
Well, I hope so. Clint is a little bit, I think he's a little bit smaller. I think Zeph's quite tall, and Clint can ride lighter than what Zeph can at the moment. So Zeph needs to make hay while sun shines at the moment, because he perhaps in time is going to have some issues with his weight, but he is riding well, the young man. It's good to see.
Mick from Hall's Head, as soon as Matt Laurie said Treasure the Moment was going to the Cox Plate, took the $8 each way. Draws 4 or 6, she'll be very hard to beat now she's fit. Remember the first up run, she brained them. She did. If she hadn't had the setback, I think at the moment she'd probably be close to favourite, but that's in a different world. We're trying to...
If she hadn't had the setback, she might have won another Group 1.
Oh, yeah, well, off what she did first up, you'd suggest that she would have gone very, very close to winning another Group 1.
What do we do with Pride of Jenny in the wake of Saturday?
In terms of just going forward?
Where are we at,
Back to the 1,600 metres. Does she go to an Empire Rose?
Maybe. I think
possibly be an easier field, but...
I think what we're seeing with her, you get best runs fresh with her, don't you?
Yeah.
And that was a seriously good field that she encountered on the weekend as well.
Yep, absolutely. Greg L finishing it off. Continuing the ZJP, just getting more consistent by the week. Ripping Young Rider was a fantastic ride on the $21 winner yesterday at Cal.
Yep. And one thing we see with apprentices, the greater the amount of opportunities they'll get, they'll improve, because, you start out, you're a kid, and you can claim some weight on these big horses with big weights, and you go okay. And then you'll invariably have to pick up some rides on horses which aren't that good, because you're finding your way, you're forging your identity. But as you get established as a junior rider, you get those better rides, and you associate yourself with stables who are going to give you some good opportunities, and you're seeing that with Zeph, which is terrific.
Damo from Wilson, talking about the Sir Delius news on Friday. It's called a punt. If you bet in the Melbourne Cup 2 months ago, you're having a punt. Saturday, sitting with the mates in a pub tab, 1 bet's in the Everest, race is run, some discussion on it in shoes. What's our next bet?
It's a very pragmatic way to approach it, isn't it?
It's fair.
It's gambling. That's what they call a gamble, isn't it? So, yeah, that's probably fair. as much as those who have had multis will be bleating this morning and probably have been bleating over the weekend, you can certainly understand where that is coming from.
Absolutely. All right, we'll head out to a break. Matt Young on the other side.
Tab Radio, your station of choice. Each weekday morning from 5:30 with the Sports Daily. This WA Harness Racing Preview is brought to you by Retrovision. TVs, computers, electrical appliances and homewares. Retrovision is your retailer of choice. Retrovision, 60 years strong in WA with 18 stores statewide. RAC members receive an additional 5% every day at Retrovision.
9 races on the program today at Pinjarra to hopefully find us all the winners. Matt Young joins us on the Sports Daily. Matt, happy Monday morning to you.
Happy Monday morning to you, TC. Dix, good morning.
Good morning, Matt. Great to have a chat to you this morning as we look ahead to this 9-event card on your home track down there at Pinjarra. The first gets underway at 24 minutes to 1 o'clock over the 21.85, and it is the Woodland Stud, your genetic edge conditioned trotters, and we're looking at 7. That's Not My Gate for Aiden as the $2.25 favourite, albeit it's a competitive little market.
Yeah, look, I thought I was a clever boy when I found That's Not My Gate after it ran on Friday. I thought she was far more improved in that run than what we'd seen the whole preparation, and so I thought, she could go up a half-decent price, and I was wrong. So, once again, the price assessors have got me a treat here. $2.25, short enough in the market. Look, she's a one-paced horse, and she has got the ability to do the work in the race and still stick on, but, yeah, it's just short enough in the market for mine. But 7 on top, That's Not My Gate to beat the 8 Aristotle, who raced stronger on Friday night but couldn't beat That's Not My Gate, so I can understand why this horse has drifted out in the market. It's just a little bit of a tricky draw and hard to get a bit of a gauge on this horse at this stage on what we've seen in WA, but respect that definite chance. In for third, throwing in the 4, LS Star's got the speed to potentially get around and lead in the early part, and from there should run a decent race. And in for the top 4, there's plenty of chances, but you have to throw in number 1, Till the Sunset, who's got some decent speed and can definitely be close to the speed and be able to run into the money. But 7 on top from 8, 4 and 1.
That's in race number 1. Race number 2 over the 21.85. No scratchings. How do we play the second?
Yeah, Methuselah looks very hard to beat. Shaun McDonald driving for Gary Hall Senior. Harry, it's debut run and first up from New Zealand, so then you have to go down the rabbit hole and have a look at some of the workout runs over in New Zealand, and horse looks to be of a reasonable size. There looks to be a bit of high speed there, and just looking at some of the ones that the whole camp have brought over as 2-year-olds this season, D-Mac and I'm Stealthy. He doesn't need to be as good as those to beat this field, but yeah, you have to respect that they've been able to find a couple of gems. So 5 Methuselah on top to beat 6 Strong the Striker, who's a horse who I've always had a bit of time for. I think he just sort of went off towards the end of last prep, but a few of his runs were really high quality, so I'm expecting him to run well in this race on the turn. In for third, throwing in the 7 last King of Capel, who should perform well, but it's a bit of a tricky draw for him to try and overcome against a decent field. And 3, Some Line, best of the rest for mine. 5 on top to beat 6, 7 and 3.
All right, the 13, Pure Vida, was the emergency. It has been scratched from race 3. It's a 3-year-old maiden event, Matt, over the 1684 at 145, and we're looking at an odds-on pop.
Yeah, he's had 2 starts and been favoured on both occasions and been beaten. No fault of her own. I think she's just, victim of circumstances. So he's going to get a lovely run here, you would suggest. Likely to be leaders back, and I would say from there is going to be very dangerous with a bit of race fitness. So 8 on top, Edgy's Girl to beat 1 Piper's Parade, who trialled up soundly. He's got the nice draw and should run a really good race. Looks a likely leader. Don't think there's too many off the front line that Shayne Young would like to sit on, so I think he's just going to have to hope that she's good enough to hold off Edgy's Girl. So 8 from 1. In for third, 12, Elvira James, racing so well. But just from the draw, 12 over a mile, it's not an easy task. And number 10, 3 Flames, should be getting home quite well.
those are the four, I think, that really stand out in the market. 8 on top from 1, 12 and 4.
On to race number 4, scratch 6 and 1, a lightning lap, and the favourite is Tubbsy Farquhar.
Yeah, Tubbsy Farquhar. So, look, I think we call him something different. 3 on top, Tubbsy Farquhar. I think he's got the gate speed to lead, and he's going to run a really good race. He's $1.65. My only concern about this is last time these two met, Tubbsy Farquhar and Stapleton, Better Than Secret beat the pair of them, but Stapleton actually got over the top of Tubbsy Farquhar narrowly at the line, so that was after sitting in the breeze. So I do think they should be a lot shorter in the market together. I do think Stapleton's those have a couple of really hard runs since then, as opposed to Tubbsy Farquhar, who I think could come into this and run a really strong race. So 3 on top to beat the 4 Stapleton, but I do respect him to run a really good race. 2 in for third, who's nicely drawn, got a good war hole, but look, he just doesn't win these days. And in for fourth, I'll throw in number 10, They Call Me Stooge, who is very short in the market for the run he's going to get. But he was a good win last start, and if they do overdo it down the back straight, he'll be getting home really strongly. 3 on top from 4, 2 and 10.
American Ideal, his legacy continues. His race 5 over the 21.85, Matt, at 2.52. Number 11, Ideal Interest for Ryan Warwick is the $2.60 tab touch favourite.
Yeah, another one that I think is just a little bit short in the market, but look, he should run a pretty good race. It's a pretty open race, this one, but the 11 was a pretty good third last start. I think he's getting back to what we saw of him at the start of the prep. So 11 on top. 8 in for second. Classical Alley's really caught my eye last start. Was 4th behind Wall Street Girl and a very good time, and definitely has put up the best run that we've seen from her in a while. It's a nice trailing draw and should be dangerous late if the gap's open and the price is right to have a little investment there. So 11 on top to beat the 8. 12 in for third. Tommy Price racing well. He just needs a touch of luck, but he'll be getting home quite strongly from there. And in for fourth, we'll throw in at number 5, Era, who's got plenty of early speed and can charge forward and potentially lead in the early stages. Do prefer him over shorter, but his form over the middle distance has been quite good as of late. I'm with the 11 on top from 8, 12 and 5.
On to race number 6, scratched 1 and 2, the 2 emergencies. Favourite at $3.60, one named after you, Matt. I'm Drinking Doubles.
Yeah, no, those days are gone. Those days are gone.
Not what I heard.
Look, this is a hard race. This is a really hard race. Yeah, look, I'm confused even looking at the market in this race. I'm going to go with the 8, Be a Lawyer on top. He's each way all day. He should run a good race. He can do some work in this event and stick on well, but I'll be with him on top. 5, Gears in a Whirl. He's got the speed to lead, but from there gets a little bit trickier for Gears in a Whirl because who does he hand up to? He handed up last week, so he'll have Galveston John no doubt charging out of him. Maybe even I'm Drinking Doubles, but yeah, look, I'm going 8 from 5. 6, Galveston John. If he could lead, I think he'd run a pretty good race. And then for 4th, and throwing in 4, Submariner, who I think is not too far away. But yeah, if you're playing the quaddy, I'd be playing quite wide in that one. 8 on top from 5, 6 and 4.
Are you playing Chasing Rex at $1.45 in race 7 over the 21.85 at 4 minutes to 4 o'clock?
No, I respect the horse from what I've seen, and I think we'll run a good race. But I also watched Relatively Armour go to the line steaming last start. And, yeah, just with the front row advantage, I do think there's a little bit happening in the early stages underneath of Relatively Armour, but I just think she's ready to run a big race, and I think the price is right to have a play. So 7 on top, Relatively Armour, 12 Chasing Rex in for second. I think we'll run a really good race. If the tempo is on, it's really going to play into the hands of Off the Charts, who must be respected as a chance. And of the rest of the field, I think it's just a little bit tricky off the front as to who can get into the money. But I do think Strawny's one that can do some work and still finish it off. So respect him into a top 4 player. 7 on top to beat 12, 9 and 3.
Race number 8 is the $1.36 about World Secret Justified.
Yeah, this should just win. World Secret, on what we've seen, her win 2 starts ago was first class, and then last start second was outstanding in defeat against an Upbush girl who looks to be pretty smart. So 4 World Secret on top in this race. In for the minors, going with 9, Rock Me Over. I think will run a pretty good race. Rock Me Over is consistent, been probably consistent against nearly better horses. In for third, throwing in the 10 Del Boca Vista Bay. I think he'll run a decent race. He's been racing pretty well and getting home strongly. And 1 Hour Lily Lou has that speed earlier. They could definitely play a part in the potential lead of the race. I don't think she'll lead the first up, but I think she can run to a top 4 spot from there. 4 on top for me to beat 9, 10 and 1.
And who wins race 9, Matt, which is the Woodland Stud, thanks WA Breeders' 3-year-old pace over the 21.85 at 6 minutes after 5 o'clock?
Yeah, I'm with the 11 on top and Uwoma. Second up, gee, this horse has been defeated in some ridiculously good races, and I think Uwoma can get the job done here. So with the 11 on top, very hard to beat. 3 Bougie Boy's got a lot of upside going forward, and I think Bougie Boy will run a pretty big race. Second up, draws the front line and looks to be quite dangerous. 5 Penny Noir. In for third, Penny Noir's got plenty of speed and must be respected in the race. And in for fourth and throwing number 10, Dotty's Impact too. Dotty's Impact's only had the 2 starts, but they've both been pretty impressive performances. So yeah, it's respect there for Dotty's Impact going into this race. But yeah, it's pretty hard to go past the 11. 11 on top for me to beat 3, 5 and 10.
Who's the best?
That's a good question, actually, because I sort of found the meeting a little bit tricky. And, yeah, so, look, I'm going to go with Relatively Armour, race 7, number 7, each way. I really liked World Secret. I think she'll just win, but she's too short in the market now to have a place. So race 7, number 7, Relatively Armour, on an each way basis is my best.
All right, $6 with Tab Touch at the moment, race 7, number 7. Who is the special guest on Off and Pacing?
Stewie McDonald.
All right, beautiful. We'll catch up with Stewie and hear from you in about 5 minutes, Matt.
Cheers, guys.
There's Matt Young. All right, we got through another episode of the Sports Daily.
That we did. Looking forward to tomorrow. Breakfast with the best.
Catching up with Brent Zarafa from Moonee Valley.
Excellent. Excellent. He'll give us all the news from the all-important track gallops there at the track.
Absolutely. All right, we'll do it from 5:30 tomorrow morning.
Have a wonderful day.
Over the weekend.